Chaplain Commissioner Romel McMurray will lead us in our prayer and our pledge. Got it.
Let us pray, please. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day and this evening. Thank you for always watching over us and protecting us. I ask that you give us, the commission, the wisdom and knowledge to make the best decisions here this evening and every day going forward. We are all here because we love our county and our great neighbors. I ask that peace and unity resides amongst us all within the chambers and around the world. For we know that the Bible states that we should love thy neighbor whether we agree or disagree with decisions that are made. For we know that the most difficult task isn't to make everyone happy, but the simplest task is to be happy with everyone. Lord, we want to say we thank you for our veterans who have served our great nation. Because of their sacrifices, we have the freedom that some others wish they had. So as we embark on this Thanksgiving season, let us be reminded of the freedoms that we all have. Let us learn to be grateful and thankful for what we have, because we'll always end up having more. But if we concentrate on what we don't have, we'll never have enough. At the end of the day, our lives is someone else's fairy tale. So let us show gratitude in our daily attitudes. Continue to watch over our county, our state, and our country. As I close this prayer, help us to remember to be kind, to be thoughtful, to be genuine, and most of all, be thankful. In your name, amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 3 white stars on a field of blue, God keep them strong and ever true. It is with pride and love that we salute the flag of Tennessee.
Thank you. Thank you. You may be seated. Are you? Call the roll, please, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Oliver.
Present.
Commissioner Piercy.
Here.
Commissioner Rather.
Here.
Commissioner P.
Here.
Commissioner Davidson.
Here.
Commissioner Beverly.
Here.
Commissioner Cush.
Present.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Commissioner James.
Here.
Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
Commissioner Anthony Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Boyd.
Here.
Commissioner Paul Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Irvin.
Here.
Commissioner Harris.
Here.
Commissioner Dodd.
Here.
Chairman Phillips.
Present.
Commissioner McAdoo. Here. McMurray.
Here.
Commissioner Gooch.
Here.
Commissioner Sereno.
Here.
We have a quorum, 21 present.
Thank you. Next on our agenda, we have a special presentation and an observation and awareness of our Veterans Day, and I'm going to call on Commissioner Reserve Specialist for the 390th Reserve Unit, Joshua James. Commissioner James.
Well, thank you, and it feels odd to get an applause for doing the job. But I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that since we last met, a very important holiday, at least for me and others like me, had come through. It was Veterans Day. The day is usually marked by people like myself, service members in uniform, having to attend various functions in capacity when it should be, as a colonel told me just this last weekend, a day that the public does stuff for us. But we are always stand up and serve as best we can in every form or fashion. Once you get bit by that service bug, it kind of is an ongoing issue. It's just lifelong. Hence me standing here today in another capacity. And I'm sure many, many of you know what it's like to have that desire to serve. Otherwise you wouldn't be where you are. I wanted to present this tonight because I wanted to reach out to all members of the community, all veterans of various levels, whether they served went to MEPS, raised their hand and swore in, or they did 30-plus years, whether they had a local tour of duty with the National Guard or Reserve unit, or were combat deployed. They come in all shapes, all stripes, all sizes. So I reached out to various organizations to show kind of our upcoming groups, meaning like the ROTC cadets, which I've had the great privilege of visiting a lot of their functions so far this school year, and they've been doing phenomenal. They're Raider teams all across the board, and we are so blessed to have so many different ROTC programs. I've also talked with several different recruiters who I would like to invite it also, and if the chairman will allow, I'd like them as well as the other members that came to have a brief speak to you and in the community about what they do for the community. Not just the recruiters. I've also spoken to the end of it after you retire and you finish up your time. You have, the American Legion, the VFW, the DAV, very diverse and very separate programs and entities out there that do great works for the veterans. And sometimes, as a veteran, you don't realize what team you really have once you're out, and there becomes a void out there. So I feel it's my duty, my obligation to make sure that the community is aware of all or the veterans out there are all aware of all the programs that are at their disposal, and that they're always just one call away from any help they need. So at this point, if the chairman will allow,
By all means, you have the floor.
I would like any members from those organizations that would like to come speak to please come up and speak and let us know what your organization stands for, what you do, and give us a chance to say, for us to say thank you for what you do in our community.
Good evening. My name is Dave Rogers. I'm with the Veterans of Foreign Wars here in Tennessee. Besides being the Senior Vice Commander for Murfreesboro, Post 12206, I'm also the State Photographer and Social Media Chairman for the Department of Tennessee. And I want to thank you for having us here tonight to be able to talk about our organizations and what we do out in the community. The VFW is the oldest and largest combat veteran organization. You have had to serve in combat to belong to the organization, and there are many qualifications. The reason why I'm very strong, I belong to all the organizations just about, DAV, AMVETS, American Legion, but the reason why I'm so strong and so active in the VFW is because of our mission. Recently we had Veterans Day, Veterans Day is about celebrating all veterans, whether you went to combat or whether you were on, here in America. It's about whether you're a man or a woman, black, white, none of that matters. It's all about celebrating all the veterans that are out there, present and past. Sorry. Go on. Oh, he got sick, yes. Sorry about that. And that's what the VFW is about. Even though our membership requires you to be a combat veteran, the VFW is about helping all veterans, from our scholarships to our grants to our service officers. All of them out there are about helping those different programs. We also have youth scholarships, Patriots Pen for the middle school, Voice of Democracy for the high school. We have Teacher of the Year. We recognize our firefighters, our EMTs, our police officers. So there's many things that the VFW does, because it's not just about helping the veterans, it's about giving back to the communities in which we belong to. So we do fundraisers, we collect coats, we do all sorts of programs like that. If you're interested in knowing more about the VFW, you can find us on Facebook at VFW Post 12206. We'd be glad to talk to you about opportunities and chances to help out in the community more with housing, with food programs, with grants to help local programs. Thank you. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
Good evening. My name is Staff Sergeant Louis. I work for the United States Army here in Rutherford County. I'm also the Community Outreach NCO for Rutherford County. Commissioner James, thank you for inviting me. Members of the community, thank you for having me out here as well. Like I said, I am a Community Outreach NCO for the United States Army. I'm stationed here in Murfreesboro. The U.S. Army, it's more about ensuring our national security at home and abroad. It's about giving back to the community and getting to know our communities that support us in every way, shape, or form. The Army Outreach Division coordinates engagements nationwide to allow the American public to see and interact with the U.S. Army. We want to build and develop relationships with a diverse range of civic, ethnic, and business organizations. We want to connect you with Army assets in your community. We do multiple assets. We have static displays we do for a lot of high schools in Rutherford County. Our latest one was at Stewart's Creek High School, where we got some helicopters to kind of show all the students that there's more to the Army, for example, aviation and the medical field as well. We also do fundraisers every year at the beginning of the school year to get high school supplies for all the high schoolers in need of pens, notebooks, computers, and we also do a lot of scholarships too. So I'm just here to reach out to you guys, and if you guys ever need anything at your schools or a community event, I would love to reach out to you. Once again, my name is Staff Sergeant Louis. I work right down here on 1715 Old Fort Parkway, or at the Army Recruiting Office. Thank you again for having me. Commissioner James, thank you so much, and I appreciate you guys working. I would like to work with you guys in the future. Thank you.
Commissioner James, thank you very much. Commissioners, my name is Master Sergeant Ross List. I'm Air Force retired combat veteran. I'm actually here to speak for the Charlie Daniels Center because they do such a phenomenal job. I don't know if you've been part of it, seen to it, but Dr. Miller runs a key aspect. And I'm a retired Master Sergeant, so I believe in the 3B method: be present, be brief, be gone. So what I would like to say is just, MTSU has changed dramatically since I grew up here in Middle Tennessee in the 90s, and now I'm a retired Master Sergeant working for a federal agency. I decided to go back to school. Dr. Miller helped me and a lot of other veterans get back in, help us use our GI Bill, and also be with, for lack of better words, being a Blue Raider. You know, it's interesting being a little seasoned. I'll be 29 for the 15th time this year. So going back into and being brick and mortar classes, but being part of an organization that understands that we speak different. We have a different language as a military person. Sometimes there's certain things we say that people don't understand. And sometimes we have just a little bit more edge than other people would like to say. But that organization does great things. They reach out to us on special events. We do Red Cross briefings. And the biggest thing for me is helping our veterans that are homeless. If we can get out and we can give food and we can give clothing, and also the Veterans Center here in Murfreesboro. One of the key thing is any veteran needs help, we always want to reach out and help. And of course, the center collects clothes, canned goods, and like you said, we all like to serve. There's one thing that we can do when you retire, like I did, or even when you do your short time, we lose the ability to have a mission, and we want to find that. And the military taught us how to be military. The military did not teach us how to be civilian again. So I look at the Charlie Daniels Center as a stepping stone to help us get back into education, to get back in and being profitable, and also productive members of a society. So I want to give a shout out to them and say thank you again for the Charlie Daniels Center and everything they do, and especially Dr. Miller.
Thank you. Me too.
I'm Larry Sims. I know most of you. Back in '63, I was playing football at Tennessee Tech on a scholarship, and I didn't go to class, so I didn't stay there. They flunked me out. And then 30 days later, 60 days later, they had me in Vietnam. I served with the 101st Airborne over there, and then came back with the 82nd. So I know what it means, but what I'm up here is not so much about it. I just wanted to say something about the VA hospital. I've been able to use it. It's a wonderful facility, great doctors. If you're a veteran, if you don't take advantage, you're missing something. They really take care of you out there. So if you get the chance, we're very blessed to have the VA hospital. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. Just before we close this section, I'd like for all of our veterans to stand up. Any veterans, stand up. Thank you for your service to our families. Thank you, Commissioner James. Item G, proclamation for Pat and Harry Schaefer Day. Chairman Pro Tem Trey Gooch. Mayor Carr and Pro Tem Trey Gooch fought over who's going to read this, so it looks like both of them are.
Whereas Pat Schaefer was born on December 3rd, 1952 in Shelbyville, Tennessee, and moved to Murfreesboro in 1989 when she married Harry, her husband. Pat received a bachelor's and master's degrees in special education from Middle Tennessee State University, and in 1988 she was selected as a finalist for Teacher of the Year, Excellence in Teaching Award from University of Tennessee, Bedford County Teacher of the Year, and District Level Teacher of the Year. She was also honored as the Upper Cumberland Teacher of the Year in 1991, and whereas Pat founded the Jubilee Educational Services in May of 1997 in her own home because she felt that God wanted her to work with students who didn't fit into the public education system. The Jubilee Education Services has grown from a tutoring program of Pat's home to a day program and tutorial service at 321 West McKnight Drive in Rutherford County. And this year, Jubilee celebrated its 25th anniversary. Pat and Harry were also heavily involved with Greenhouse Ministries and Journey Home Ministries here in Murfreesboro. Whereas, sadly, Harry Schaefer passed away on October 16, 2019, and Pat passed away on December 2nd, 2020, due to complications from COVID-19. The Schaefer Legacy Project was founded in early 2022 to carry on their legacy. Now, therefore, I, Joe S. Carr, Mayor of Rutherford County, do hereby proclaim December 3rd, 2022 as Pat and Harry Schaefer Day in Rutherford County, Tennessee, as a celebration of their generosity, commitment, and dedication to helping those in Rutherford County who need it most. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the Schaefer legacy or the family in the audience? Would you come up to be recognized, please?
I'm Ashley Fleming. Pat and Harry were my parents. I just want to say thank you. My mom was an amazing educator and part of this community. I am blessed to be able to continue the legacy that they began 25 years ago and continue to run Jubilee in their honor. So thank you.
Commissioner Gooch, while you're up here, we need to approve our minutes from our October meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I met with the deputy clerk and we reviewed those minutes, find everything to be in order, and my motion is to dispense with the reading and approve the minutes as presented.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of approving our October minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next on our list is a report from our Smyrna Rutherford Airport Authority, and Executive Director John Black is here. Black, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Mayor and County Commissioners. I appreciate your time tonight. I'll try to stick to that 3B method that was mentioned earlier. Be brief, and thank you again. We have a lot going on at Smyrna Airport, and I know you have a busy agenda tonight, but this airport was built in 1942. I know a lot of you know the history of the airport, but I think it's very important. And we take the honor of taking care of Smyrna Airport very seriously, because a lot of people went through this airport that are protected our freedom over the years. So 1942, fast forward to 1970 when the airport closed, and actually taken over by the Metropolitan Nashville Airport Authority for about 20 years. Toward the end of that 20-year period, Nashville Airport was building a hub for American Airlines, and they weren't really focused on the airport. And the people that were actually sitting in your chairs tonight, and people from the chamber and our legislators, took that upon themselves to say, you know, this airport's in our community, we really need control of this airport. That was when the Smyrna Rutherford County Airport Authority was born in 1991. Some of you who are on this commission were here then, and we appreciate that. So the Airport Authority was formed, and we have a 5-member board, and I'd like to introduce some people tonight. One of those is Helen Colvin. She is the vice chairman of the Airport Authority, who has helped guide this Airport Authority since day one. And also Paul Lamb. Paul is a representative from the town of Smyrna, and Salil Rai is here. He's our deputy director. Unfortunately, Mike Woods, our chairman, was not able to be here tonight due to a prior commitment. Since the Airport Authority has been formed, $245 million have been invested in the airport. We have as you can see, over 51 businesses on the airport. We are fully leased out. Everything is leased, and we're building more. As you can see, here's an aerial shot of the airport. You know, one of our taglines is, we're big enough to land a 747, and we are. We have 8,000 feet of runway on one runway, a little over 5,500 feet on the other, and it's true asset for this county. It's been referred to as a crown jewel, and it really is. It's one of those tools in the toolbox that we use when we're recruiting businesses to Rutherford County. So each year, the FAA looks at certain metrics. One of those is the number of operations at each airport, and that is calculated by a takeoff is 1, a landing would be 2. Our air traffic control tower counts those. So in the state of Tennessee, the first, of course, Memphis is the busiest with the FedEx hub. Nashville is number 2, and guess who number 3 is? Smyrna Airport. So we are the 3rd busiest airport in the state. We are neck and neck with Knoxville. We kind of go back and forth on that metric, but we do about 125,000 operations every year, which is quite a few. We're very busy. These are some of the household name companies that we all know. This is just a very small sampling of the companies that use Smyrna Airport on a regular basis. We also have our own aircraft rescue and firefighting department there on the airport. And I'd like to say thank you to all the veterans who are here tonight. Like I said, it's an honor for us to be there at the airport. It's also an honor for us to work with the National Guard, who has a portion of the eastern side of the airport. Most of the deployments and recovery of the National Guard come through Smyrna. Last year we did around 4,000 troops, and we're always so happy to welcome them back home. We also do unscheduled air carrier service. So you see this Southwest airplane, this is at Smyrna. This part of our future plan is to have passenger service at Smyrna. We've reserved an area to do that, and we have a lot of interest in that. Be very convenient to go to Smyrna, wouldn't it, besides Nashville? We also support life flight operations, Vanderbilt Life Flight. The new helicopter that supports Ascension here, St. Thomas, is based at Smyrna. Also Sky 5, the one you see on Channel 5 News, flies out of Smyrna. And we are home to the Great Tennessee Air Show, so I'm pretty excited to announce we're going to have an air show next year, June 10th and 11th, featuring the United States Navy Blue Angels. They'll be coming in December 19th for a preseason visit, so if you see a number 7 jet flying around, or you might hear it, that's who it's going to be, and we're excited about that. This is one of the big reasons we do the air show, is to really inspire that next generation of people that are interested in aviation. Over the years, I can't tell you how many people that I've run across that said, I wouldn't be in this business if I hadn't have gone to the air show in Smyrna. So we think it's a very special opportunity for us and our community. We also have a little sideline business. A lot of different famous people come through Smyrna, as you can see there. You may have seen this flying around in the month of July for Shark Week. That went down to Florida, and based here at Smyrna, we have a blimp operation in one of our hangars. We have 2 FBOs. These are kind of the front door of the airport, Azure Flight Support and Hollingshead Aviation. Hollingshead adding more hangar space. We're going to add about 200,000 square feet of hangar space this year. And there's a great need for hangar space in this area. With all the companies moving in, their corporate aviation departments need areas like that. Contour Airlines is based out of Smyrna. All their fleet comes back to Smyrna for all maintenance. Their world headquarters is located in one of our buildings there. And our airport business park is almost full. This is the industrial piece of the airport, industrial park. And we've worked with Hillwood, great company out of Texas. And they just finished the 4th building there, which part of the charge for the airport authority is to be as self-sustainable as possible. We don't want to have to come to the county commission, and we never really have, for money. We operate in the black, and we operate like a business. Here's some of the companies located there. Also UPS, and we have some UPS flights every night. And the future. This is what we're really excited about. We're a big believer in sustainability. We have a 1 megawatt solar farm on the airport. Produces enough electricity to operate about 175 homes for a year. We also have installed a lot of LED lighting all across the airfield. It saves a lot of money. They're much more dependable. And Mayor, we also have the apiary on the airport, fellow beekeeper there, so we produce honey to help. And we just finished our airport master plan, which is our kind of 15 to 20 year blueprint for the airport. And it is a very deep dive into many different aspects of the airport. And this is kind of what we follow as we go forward. This is some of the geometry that's going to change on the airfield. This is a hangar we just finished for Contour Airlines. It's 33,000 square feet. All their fleet is worked on in this hangar. They have added an additional 40 people, 40 aircraft mechanics in there since we opened this. They now are up to 200. And this is Stevens Aerospace. They just finished an $8 million hangar. They moved down here from Nashville. They are also based in Greenville, South Carolina. They do work mainly on King Air aircraft. They are getting ready to add an additional hangar in addition to the one they just built. This was the day they had to test the foam system in the hangar. I'm not sure if the video is going to, yeah, there it goes. In an aircraft hangar, you have to put a foam suppression system in, and this was the day they tested it. We hope it never goes off. This runway, we just got an $8 million grant to completely rehabilitate one of our runways at the airport. We're in final design right now, and we'll be starting that project in the spring. So you might see a big lighted X out there if you drive by. And this, I'm almost finished. This is the economic impact study the state recently did on our airport. It's a $232 million annual impact on our community. Interesting thing is 10 years ago we did the same type of study through MTSU, and it was $74 million. So in 10 years we've effectively tripled the economic impact of the airport on this community. These are the four things that we kind of live by every day, is to provide a great world-class front door airport for our community. A lot of times, businesses, when they come to our community, the first thing they see is the airport, and that's the first impression they get. So it's very important to us to keep that at a world-class level while working with our local businesses, our existing businesses, but we also work very closely with the Chamber, State ECD, all of you, to bring new business to Rutherford County. And that is the end of my presentation. I invite any of you, all of you, to the airport when you have time, and we can go a little more in depth to see what we have there. So thank you very much for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
We have no one signed up for public hearings tonight. I'd just like to make one quick statement on that. Sometime last year, it's been well over a year ago, Commissioner Rather asked this commission, or the prior commission, the Rutherford County Commission, to go in a special prayer session for one of his neighbors. And it was a young lady, an MTSU student, if I'm not mistaken, that was in a horrific accident. The initial problem was life and death. It looks like she survived that, and rehab has been very long in coming. I'm saying this simply because there's an update that Michael's wife, Jody, was going to present under public comments. There was a video of Lindley's progress that we were going to show tonight, a very short video, and we had some technical difficulties, and I've asked Michael if he would to postpone that till next week, but there's going to be an update, a miraculous update as to the recovery from that individual. And I don't know how any of you feel, but I do feel like there's been some answers to that request for prayers for that family. So that'll be coming under public comments next month. Thank you. It's time for our public hearings. And at this time, we'll get to that on our agenda. It's item M on our agenda, and I'll call on our Planning Director, Doug DeMasi. Want me to go ahead the first one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, commissioners and all in attendance. Hope everybody's having a good night tonight. We have 5 public hearings for your consideration tonight. The first is by Melinda Black. This is property located along Lascassas Pike. The current zoning is residential medium density, or RM. The proposed zoning is commercial services. The combined size of the site is about 4.5 acres. Again, as I stated just a moment ago, she's asking to zone both of these properties to commercial services. According to conversations I've had with the applicant, she currently doesn't have any development plans, and no concept plan has been included with your agenda packets on your iPads. So this request is more speculative in nature. She did make a similar request for property to the west a little earlier this year, which was approved by the board back in April. Both parcels will have access to Lascassas Pike. The number of required parking spots, parking lot design, access will be determined by the requirements of the zoning ordinance should this application be approved, and that would have to be shown on an engineered site plan that would be submitted to our office for review. This would include anything like a truck turning template or anything like that that we feel would be necessary, or a traffic study even. Properties located in the Commercial Services District are required to provide a Type 2 buffer. The county does have 3 levels of buffer, 1, 2, and 3. 2 is kind of the one in the middle. This will be required on the east, the south, and the west side of the subject properties because it's abutting residentially zoned properties, and it would also have to adhere to our performance standards. During the public hearing, there was a neighboring property owner that did ask some questions about potential buffering on the property. There is a pretty large tree line on the eastern side of the property. It was discussed that typically when developers look to redevelop a piece of property, they're going to try to keep as much of the landscaping as possible because it doesn't make much sense to tear it down just to put it back in again. There was also a letter received at our office a few weeks ago regarding the zoning. They had some concerns about traffic in the area as well. I just wanted to make you aware of that. After the public hearing, the Planning Commission did make a motion to recommend approval of this request by a unanimous vote. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Mr. DeMasi? Time for a public hearing. At this time, I'll declare a public hearing open for item REZ 22-023, rezoning request for Melinda B. Black, located at 6990 and 7034 Lascassas Pike. The existing zoning is RM for residential medium density. The proposed zoning is for CS, commercial services, and the size of the lot is approximately 4.4 acres. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please come forward. We'll remind everyone that our guidelines are 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward. Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner Piercy.
Chairman Phillips, since there are no plans available for what this will be used for, at this time I feel like when it does come back with suggestions of what, there will be more questions asked most likely. With that being said, I'll move for its approval with staff comments.
We have a motion to approve. And a second. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve rezoning request REZ 22-023. We're going to be on the board for these, so if you would, please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
21 yes.
Item REZ 22-023 is approved. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The second request is by Mr. Jaydev Patel. This is located at 6167 Shelbyville Pike. The existing zoning is residential low density, RL, and the proposed zoning is also commercial services. The size of this property is about 2.5 acres. According to conversations with the applicant's representative, they'd like to develop this property as a gas station and convenience market. They have indicated that depending on the septic soils available on the property, they may also have a small restaurant. These uses are classified respectively as general retail trade and food and beverage services in our zoning ordinance, both of which are allowed by right in the CS zone. The applicant's representative also indicated they'd like to provide diesel fuel for 18-wheel tractor trailers. We did express some concern about that, mainly because of the size of the property. We didn't think it'd have much of ability to accommodate larger vehicles. We'd also did inform them that truck stops are not allowed in the commercial services zone. That requires a whole different type of zoning, and light industrial, heavy industrial, something on that line. But it does not necessarily prohibit the provision of diesel pumps. Now, that being said, there's not a concept plan within your agenda packets today. We actually did receive one a little earlier today, but not enough time for me to get this onto the iPad, so I apologize for that. But the concept plan that they did show us does not show any kind of truck stop facilities or anything. It is strictly just a convenience market with a small restaurant. So again, that is consistent with what they had discussed with me prior. This property does have frontage along both Shelbyville Pike and Christiana Road. Current access is along Shelbyville Pike, which we believe is probably a more appropriate location for a new access drive. Their concept plan does show one drive on each. Again, the one that we got a little earlier today. Again, the number of required parking spots, parking lot design, that'll all be determined if this is approved and we do see a site plan. We'll have further discussion on that. And this would, again, include any kind of a truck turning template. We probably still want to see one just because of the fact that fueling trucks will have to pull onto the property. But beyond that, that's fairly typical. Properties also, this would also have to require a type 2 buffer along residentially zoned properties, which would be to the south and to the east, and performance standards would apply. There was very little discussion on this request. There was no one who spoke during the public hearing on this one. And again, the Planning Commission did recommend approval by a unanimous vote. So again, I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Any questions for staff or Mr. DeMasi? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing open for REZ 22-024, Jaydev Patel, located at 6167 Shelbyville Pike. It's residential. It's currently residential, low density. Proposed zoning is for CS, which is commercial services, and the site is approximately 2.5 acres. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please come forward. An address, please.
Oh, hey, I'm Wendell Miller. I live at 2520 River Road, Murfreesboro. I represent the owners and the developers of this project, and I just wanted to address one thing to the commission, and it has to do with those diesel pumps. Basically, we see that as a service to the community out there because we see a lot of farm trucks. There's a lot of dump trucks, farm trucks, agricultural equipment that all use diesel, that use a lot of it. And anyway, they wanted a way to be able to address the local community out there. And so that's really all I have to say about that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to approve with staff comments.
I have a motion and a second to approve REZ 22-024 for Jaydev Patel. Any questions? Want to be on the board for this, so please cast your vote. Record the vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Now record the vote.
21 yes.
Thank you. Item REZ 22-024, rezoning request has been approved. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Our third rezoning request tonight, and my apologies to the applicant. I'm going to butcher this name, and I know I am, but this is by Satishkumar D. Patel. This is located at 7225 Manchester Highway. It is zoned residential medium density. Currently, they are looking for commercial general zoning. The size of the area is approximately 1 acre. This property is, the property located at the corner of Manchester Pike and East Gum Road, which is immediately adjacent to the tract that's up for consideration tonight, was rezoned commercial general back in October of 2019. The Board of Zoning Appeals did consider a special exception request for a boat and RV storage facility on this property back in January of 2020, which was granted. The Planning Commission did see a site plan for that, but the plan was deferred and then never brought back. So there was a lot of questions on that needed to be resolved, but again, it just kind of died on the vine, so to speak. So the current applicants would like to take a portion of the subject property, which is adjacent to the one I just discussed, and combine it with the track at the intersection for a convenience market gas station. Again, similar to the last application, it is classified as general retail trade, which is allowed by right in the CG zone. There is a concept plan that has been included with your agendas on your iPads. This is not a plan development, so it's not a binding plan, but it does give the commission an idea of how they want to develop the property. We have told the applicant that an engineered site plan would be required to ensure it meets all of the parking area, landscape requirements, et cetera, that I've discussed in previous applications. And landscaping, again, the type 2 buffer would be required adjacent to residentially zoned property, which would be to the east and north of the subject property that we're talking about. The survey that came back, since this is only a portion of the property, it says in here it's about an acre. It ended up being like 0.84, but I mean, that's just so for your information more than anything. Most of the questions that we received on this application concerned whether the property would be combined with that commercially zoned property to the west, which it's going to be. That's the plan. And following the public hearing, there were no comments. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this request by a unanimous vote. So once again, be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. DeMasi? Not, I'll declare the public hearing open. Zoning request for REZ 22-025, Satishkumar Patel, located at 7225 Manchester Highway. Existing zoning is residential medium density. Proposed zoning is RM and commercial services, CG. The size of the area is approximately an acre.
Thank you, Chairman Phillips. My name is Clyde Roundtree with Huddleston Steel Engineering. Just want to bring a little clarification of why this is in the process. Basically, the adjacent property owner was approached about possibly buying more land. So this is an adjacent property owner that's selling the property, and the additional land is being used for a septic area. So just to know, that's really why we're after this extra acre. It gives them a little more capacity on that corner. But I did want you to know why we're doing this, and also that the adjacent property owner was the seller. Thank you. I'm available for any questions you may have. If there's any questions after the public hearing, I'm glad to answer those. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed for REZ 22-025, Satishkumar Patel. Commissioner Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to approve with staff comment.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Any other questions or comments? For this, we're also going to be on the board, so please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
21 yes.
Rezoning request for REZ 22-025, Satishkumar Patel has been approved. Mr. Demasi.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Our fourth of 5 public hearings tonight is by Eli Waldron. This is for Giant Garages 2 LLC, located at 611 East Jefferson Pike. It's currently zoned light industrial, and they're asking for commercial services for about an 8-acre piece of property. The applicant would like to rezone the subject property for use as a mini warehouse facility. Mini warehouses are only permitted by special exception in the commercial services zone, which requires an application to the Board of Zoning Appeals. The applicant has been made aware of this requirement. Even though the proposed use of a mini warehouse is permitted by right currently in the light industrial zone, the applicant wishes to rezone this property to commercial services to allow for a little bit more lot coverage. Under the light industrial zone, you're limited to 50%, which includes anything lot coverage in a commercial area, includes buildings and parking area, or maneuvering area, if you will, for this type of a use. Commercial services allows up to 60%, so this gives them a little bit more leeway in that. A concept plan has been included with your agenda materials. The proposed development, as shown, consists of 8 buildings containing 180 storage units, an office, parking area, and large paved driveways to accommodate larger vehicles. It's their intention to provide larger storage units for boats, RVs, those kind of things. Wade's Branch, which is a part of the Stones River watershed, runs through the northern portion of the property. Any development would be subject to require an undisturbed stream buffer along that, but again, that's more of a site plan issue should this be approved. Access would be along East Jefferson Pike. The number of spots, parking lot design, et cetera, would be handled through an engineered site plan. No traffic study has been performed at this time, but we could require one if we felt one was necessary. And of course, our landscaping ordinance and performance standards would also apply. The Planning Commission did have some questions about some of the property zoning and ownership of adjacent property, but following those questions, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this by a unanimous vote. So once again, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Demasi? Seeing no questions, I'll declare the public hearing open for REZ 22-027, rezoning request for Eli Waldron for Giant Garages 2, located at 611 East Jefferson Pike. The existing zoning is light industrial. Proposed zoning is commercial services. The size of the site is approximately 8 acres. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please come forward. Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner Piercy.
For the ones of you that do not know where this is on the Jefferson Pike, it lies directly in front of the Republic landfill. Anybody eager enough and willing to invest and build something there, I can support them 100%. I move for its approval with staff comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Piercy. We have a motion and a second. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve REZ 22-027. Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
21 yes.
Thank you. Item REZ 22-027 for Eli Waldron. The rezoning request for Eli Waldron has been approved. Mr. DeMasi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our final public hearing tonight is for property located at 1218 West Jefferson Pike by Stephanie Macca. This is currently zoned residential medium density. Proposed zoning is planned unit development for a rural retreat/event venue. The property is about 7 acres in size. As stated, the applicant would like to use this property as a multi-use event rural retreat. The zoning ordinance requires properties less than 10 acres in size to go through the PUD rezoning process to establish the use, which is why you're seeing it here tonight. I know the applicant is present and is probably going to make a brief presentation on this, so I'll just kind of give you an overview of the pattern book, which is included on your iPads. Information provided in that states that they're going to hold somewhere between 30 and 40 events per year. The maximum number of attendees would be 100. These would all be weekend events. Now, that has been clarified from the Planning Commission to mean Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That is also in the pattern book. There will be several employees at each event, 2 off-duty police officers, 1 security guard, a wedding planner, event coordinator, at least 3 additional employees. The applicant has included a concept plan. Again, you can find that in the pattern book. There are 2 primary structures on the property, the owner's residence, which the applicant plans to occupy, and 2 conjoined cabins. A new structure, which is the wedding barn, is proposed to be built behind the main residence on the property, which will house the events. There will also be an outdoor area for weddings, but not for reception. Those will all be inside. Grass parking will be provided with paved ADA spaces, handicap disabled spaces, and overnight accommodations for the bride and groom only are also planned. Again, I will call your attention to the pattern book on your iPad. There's also, you'll see on your iPads a couple of different folders with various material. Trying to see all that on the big screen might be a little difficult. I know the applicant and some of the folks that are speaking have some videos. Those will be on the screen, but all the other materials will be on your iPads, so anything that they do reference, just note it'll be within one of those 2 folders. The property does have an existing driveway onto West Jefferson Pike. This will not be used during the events. Their plan does show a connection for the venue coming off of Roanoke Drive. One of our primary concerns on this the whole time dealt with the traffic conditions along West Jefferson Pike, as well as the site distances at the intersection of Roanoke Drive and West Jefferson Pike. The pattern book does state, and the applicant has reiterated, that they are proposing to employ off-duty police officers to direct traffic and to be present at all events. Again, should this application be approved, it would have to be demonstrated on an engineered site plan, which would be submitted to our office. Retreats or event venues, if you'd like to call them, do have different buffering requirements than conventionally zoned property. It's determined by the setbacks from the property lines of the buildings. The closest point of the proposed interior wedding barn is about 65 feet, which call for a type 3 buffer. The applicant is proposing privacy fencing and a significant number of new trees around the northern property line. In fact, has planted several already to help buffer the venue from the adjacent properties. It doesn't show anything along the eastern property line. However, the closest structure is about 370 feet from that line, and there is an existing treed area there. But again, we can look at that in more detail should this application be approved when we look at the site plan. And our performance standards would apply. The zoning ordinance does state that any outdoor lighting, amplified sound, anything like that in a retreat has to cease by 10 p.m., and their pattern book says that it will do just that. There was a lengthy public hearing with several people speaking both for and against this request. Quite frankly, most of the people here right now are probably here for this particular application. Most of the concerns from those who oppose the request involve traffic and safety along West Jefferson Pike, potential noise and drainage issues, the appropriateness of the use to the area. There were also people who commented they were okay with the proposed historical tours that the applicant does outline in her pattern book for the smaller structures, but not necessarily with the wedding or larger gathering events. Following the public hearing, the Planning Commission did have questions about traffic safety, noise, and how drainage would be handled. Several of these issues would be handled should the application be approved during the site plan phase, especially things like drainage and whatnot. After discussion, there was a motion made to approve the request subject to the following conditions. A sound engineer be retained to perform a sound study, with the Planning Commission given the ability to review this and possibly require more than what the study has called for. Weekends only for the larger events. I clarified that has been, I stated that's been clarified in the pattern book. Overnight accommodations inside the existing house for the bride and groom only, so not the wedding party, and the historical house that would remain on the property. Those items have been included in the revised pattern book on your iPads. There's also a sound study. There's some additional pages that were added to the pattern book. Now, I'm not a sound engineer, nor am I the son of a sound engineer. So I did speak with our building codes director about this. We agreed that as far as the technicality part of the sound study, we would have to take their word for that. But as far as the construction methods that would be used for that, our building codes director did say that that was consistent with her understanding how those things would be installed. So that's just an overview of this. Like I said, I know that the applicant is present, will want to make a presentation of her own. But with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. DeMasi. Any questions for Mr. DeMasi at this time?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Mr. DeMasi, had a quick question. What's permitted and not permitted by a PUD? And to what extent are we limiting or granting broader authority? Or could you address that? I'm sorry, I just
Yes, sir. No, I'd be happy to address that.
Thank you.
Yes. A planned unit development's kind of it's handled in the zoning ordinance in its own chapter. It's not specifically a commercial or residential zone. It's specifically designed for whatever use the applicant is proposing. So the pattern book that's included on your iPads is what they're asking to be approved. So let's, for the sake of argument, let's just say it's approved, and let's say 5 years down the road, the venue doesn't take off like they want it to, and they decide to sell the property. Somebody buying the property would have to use it under those same exact parameters. They couldn't come in there and say, well, I'm going to put a strip center here now, or a commercial center. The only way they could change the uses is if they came back through this same process. They would have to rezone the property, either amend the plan development through this same process, or completely rezone it to a different commercial classification. Does that answer your question? Very good. You're welcome.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Welcome, Commissioner Hollow.
Can you speak to us more about this sound engineer report, or is there someone that could speak to us more about that? Because that seems to be an issue when it comes to the sound.
Well, it was a very a well-discussed issue during the Planning Commission. Now, the applicant would supply a sound study for the particular use that she's proposing, which again, she has like a third-page document in there. Now, we would have to look at that and possibly discuss, does this go far enough for what we want to see? Possibility exists that, you know, we might have to talk with somebody who's more familiar with that kind of thing, because we don't have anybody on our staff that is qualified to look at that. That's not it wouldn't be the first time something like that happened, where we'd have to get somebody else to help us take a look at things. But that is one of the main issues that was discussed. You're correct.
Okay, so you said it's not the first time that's happened.
Well, not with a, I'm just saying in general, if we had to go out and get another expert to help us look at something.
So we really don't have the results of a sound
just
study
from what
as
is
of
on
yet?
the pattern book at this point. Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Dodd.
Thank you. Doug, to clarify, when this is not a vote for the final design or the final sound system or the final photometric studies, all of that will be done as part of the site plan and a further review Is that correct?
Well, for the most part, yes. Now, what they're showing in the pattern book, as far as the design of the site, I would say we would expect that to be pretty spot on to what the site plan shows. There can be some minor modifications as far as, maybe they shift the building 5 or 10 feet. I mean, little things like that we can look at. Now, when it comes to the things like you're talking about, like the drainage, the sound, those kind of things, photometrics, yes, that'll all have to come back through the Planning Commission and abide by the regulations of the zoning ordinance. That's correct.
I didn't want to get this confused, that there will be review by engineering and planning, and if experts can, at that point, be available to engineering and planning to present the sound study and to present photometric studies and to present drainage calculations.
Right.
So I just want to make sure we're not voting on the final product, we're voting on the zoning.
Correct. And more than likely, especially regarding the sound, we would probably want the sound engineer to be at our Planning Commission meeting should this be approved, because I'm sure there would be questions about that, yes.
And if that report were inadequate or insufficient, we would have the authority at that time to keep ramping up the conditions.
Well, that was one of the conditions the Planning Commission placed, was the ability. Now, we have to, be reasonable about those kind of things. We can put reasonable restrictions onto a plan development application, but, again, the key word there is reasonable.
Commissioner Harris.
Can you tell us what the Planning Commission vote was on this?
Yes, it was 6-1, if I remember right.
Other questions?
Just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, does it come back here, or is it basically, if we were to approve this, then would it go through planning and then come back to the commission, or what's the process?
Yeah, after, again, assuming the application were to be approved, which, we don't know if that's going to happen or not, but for the sake of argument, assuming the application was approved, a site plan would come through the Planning Commission, but that's as far as it would go. The site plans do not come to the County Commission for any kind of a review.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. DeMasi. Assuming that a lot of people here are wishing to speak, when you come up to the podium, if you would, state your name, address, and hold your comments to 3 minutes. You'll be on a timer, so hold your comments to 3 minutes so that we can give everyone the opportunity to speak. Understood? At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open for REZ 22-021, a rezoning request for Stephanie Macca, located at 1218 West Jefferson Pike. The existing zoning is RM for residential medium density. The proposed zoning is a PUD, planned unit development for a rural retreat evening venue. The size of the site is approximately 7 acres. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please come forward. And once again, state your name, address, and whether you're in favor or opposed. Seeing no one, I'll declare the public. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Rita Boyer. I live at 1331 Wilton Court. I would just like to say how much I am against this wedding event venue. I do not feel that this is something we want in our quiet community. I am very concerned about the noise and the traffic this will affect us. And yes, there has been a wedding before in the same house, and the noise level was tremendous. My husband and I live roughly 540 feet behind this house, and because of the loud music late at night, I was one of those that did call the police to have it lowered. Also, I do think that the added traffic would cause difficulty for those of us that walk, ride bikes, or walk their dogs along the streets. For these reasons, I vote no. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
You ask the people that speak, put the microphone up to their mouth so we can hear.
I think you just did. Everyone hear that? Speak loudly and clear and into the mic. Sometimes we have a hard time hearing you, and those that are watching on TV would have a really hard time hearing you. So speak loudly and into the mic, if you would, please. How's that? Yes, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request?
Good evening. My name is Jeff Kroll. I live at 1339 Wilton Court. I live 540 feet away. There's 4 properties that are 0 feet from this property. There's 2 properties that are 50 feet or less, 2 that are 70 feet or less, 7 that are 350 feet or less, 10 that are 500 feet or less, and 4 that are 550 feet or less. There's 26 properties that are 550 feet to 1,000 feet from that property. So there's 55 total properties, owners, within 1,000 feet, plus 1 church that's 75 feet away and 1 wildlife reserve that's 52 feet away. Only 4 of the people that spoke for this venue at the Planning Commission live in that 1,000-foot radius, okay? The other 9 that spoke live from 2,000 feet to 40 miles away from that property, okay? So, that being said, if your vote tonight is yes, you'll just make 1 family in Williamson County very happy, okay? And have a negative effect on hundreds of people and their homes in Rutherford County for the rest of our lives. The historic value of the house, I keep hearing historic value, okay? Here's the historic value to me, what I see. This property has only been on the historical registry since 2006. 2 of the structures that were on the property when it was put on the registry have already been removed by the recent owner, okay? The property was owned by a company from California until Mr. John Macca bought it and took possession of it on September 25th, 2022. By the pattern book, I'm not sure how that works. Okay, so I got all of my information for this from the county GSI map and the county information. As far as that goes, again, no one noteworthy in history has ever lived on that property. Nothing noteworthy in our history has ever taken place on that property. The only thing historical about that house is it's old. It's age. That's it. That's all there is. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Al King. I live at 1301 Randolph. We live very close to the proposed venue. The noise and traffic will directly affect us every time there's an event. My wife and I are against this project. In last month's zoning board hearing, my wife spoke about the effects of noise on the adjacent properties. Commissioner Cush's motion for approval came with a requirement and agreement by applicant Stephanie Macca to bring a certified audio professional on board to make assurances regarding sound mitigation. The updated plan, which was posted only yesterday, does not give me that assurance. Ms. Macca has engaged Jason Schwartz as a certified audio professional. While I appreciate Mr. Schwartz's experience in live sound production and design for touring acts, neither his certifications nor the company he works for, PRG denote any soundproofing construction expertise. On page 12, he proposes some specific construction methods. He proposes spray foam in the exterior wall. While open cell spray foam does offer some sound mitigation advantages, rock wool performs as well or better. Spray foam is considered combustible with a flame spread rating of 75 and a high smoke potential. Rock wool has a rating of 25. He talks about an additional wall on the east side and utilizing room-in-room construction. This proposal does not do that. I have built soundproof recording rooms. I don't have time to describe the entire process, but room-in-room construction is an entire room, wall, ceiling, floor, inside another room. A single extra wall is not adequate. An extra interior wall on the east side will not stop sound transmission on the north, south, west side, or through the ceiling, or the floor, or the windows. It's quite a process to soundproof a building. It does not appear to me that Mr. Schwartz is familiar with this process. Mr. Schwartz explains that there's 100 decibels in the building, will turn to 65 decibels outside the building, and halves again at the property line. I question the math, since the movement of sound waves is exponential, like the ripples in water when a stone's dropped in. And after sunset, refraction causes sound waves to travel further. He mentions fences and trees, but as many of us have pointed out, those provide only visual barriers, not sound barriers. Incidentally, the trees previously planted are dying. They may have been saved if treated early by a resident owner. There is also a gutter and downspout missing from about half of the front of the house. Ms. Macca is not maintaining the property. We continue to be opposed to the new building and his business the applicant plans to run under this PUD rezoning. Furthermore, we were insulted by the lack of effort put into noise abatement. Music may stop at 10 p.m. Talking, laughing, car doors slamming, cleanup crews, cigarette smoke, etc. will continue for a couple of hours afterward. This is a bad idea. This is a residential neighborhood. Jefferson Pike is overwhelmingly residential. To conclude, the zoning ordinance on page 9-3 of the PUD section says, PUDs shall be harmonious and not conflict with a surrounding residential neighborhood. The Riverside Wedding Retreat does not meet this criteria. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ralph Melton. My address is 1317 Randolph Street, Lot 19. Mr. DeMossi went over some of the pattern book statements that I wish to make, but I'm going to review them as well. Applicant's pattern book states, expected events per year, 30 to 40. Maximum number of guests, 100 plus 8 employees. Events above are scheduled on weekends. Possible other events mentioned by applicant are church events, historical property tours, receptions, etc., with no reference in the pattern book as to how many events, what days they may occur on, times, or number of guests. This could possibly add more impact on the Roanoke subdivision if these events are implemented. Concerns for use of the historical home. Option for a 2-day stay over for bride and groom will be offered and may be accepted. Historical tours and other events inside home. Concern for individuals inside home, and this is a statement that I choose to make. If a fire event occurs, and I pray this never happens, but with the age and materials of the home, a fire event is an elevated possibility. I hope the codes department, fire department will implement a functional and capable fire suppression system to protect life and property if the applicant's rezoning request is approved. The only septic system referred to in the pattern book is for the historical home only. No reference to the wedding barn septic plan at present. Initially, the proposed wedding barn was to be added to the single-family dwelling septic system on site. I don't think the existing on-site septic system could handle the additional flow of liquids and solids, thus creating an environmental hazard. Hopefully, the Planning Commission and TDEC will take an interest regarding this issue. The proposed wedding barn location is close and more impactful to lots 15 through 21 on Randolph Street. These lots are closest to the proposed structure. Our homes and properties are our retreats, and we don't want our retreats and lifestyles compromised by this rezoning request. The effects of this rezoning request, if approved, will likely affect property values, especially those closest and bordering the riverside property. Roanoke is presently quiet, peaceful, law-abiding, and a friendly rural setting, and many of us in Roanoke don't want that to change. In closing, I and 73 residents of Roanoke subdivision presented a petition to the Planning Commission, Planning Commissioners and District Commissioners of our opposition to this rezoning request. And we humbly ask for your no vote on this rezoning request from RM to PUD at 1218 West Jefferson Pike, known as Riverside. Thank you. And God bless all of the veterans in the building today. Thank you.
My name is Ulysses S. Grant Thone. I live at 107 Honeysuckle Court, Murfreesboro. I love this community. I bought this house. We'd searched for a long time. We found this property. We talked to the people around it. I am definitely opposed in every kind of way to what they want to build there. In the first place, it's a flood zone. 105 acres flood zone here. I don't know, all the people that voted for this, I asked the question when they was talking about building this thing, what they got. They said, oh, how proud they was of the step system they were going to build. You know what the step system is? It's water, it's a tank. It's set under the ground. Sewerage is in it. Each and every person in here should know that's a flood zone. You never know what that's going to do. How the Corps of Engineers ever said that they would okay this, they got enough dirt. And they said that in the last meeting. When this water comes, goes over that, it's automatically going to rise that tank, a tank up over. You'll have raw sewage on top of the ground, right down in front of our houses. Each one of you people that voted for that, you're saying, I don't care for the people that's there as taxpayers, people who love Rutherford County. You're getting paid to do a job. What I say is, do your job. See what this is. And as dangerous as it can be, people flooding out, coming out there, coming up Jefferson Pike, where this is, right there in the curve. We asked for everything we could get. You know what we got? We got one little blinking light. One little blinking light. And it's the most dangerous place in Rutherford County. Check it out. Those people that vote, I ask you, are you going to pay when this thing fails, when it floods every year? And when this comes up above this septic tank and dumps it out, when this all the people that get sick, is Rutherford County going to be responsible? All these people that vote for it? Who's going to be responsible? You're going to dump it right on us? We're voting against. I moved here because the county that is, what it's built on, what I was told about, everything. We sold everything and had in Nashville. I've been a proud resident many years in Rutherford County. My girls got to go to school here. Very proud. I ask you, please do your job. You see, if it's in a flood zone, it floods every year. We brought the pictures. You get the pictures anytime you want them. You people that's voting on this, look at that. If it dumped that septic tank out there, only people, a bunch of people got sick. Are you going to pay for it when it kills some of our neighbors? My grandpa people come here. Thank you for your time.
Hello, good evening.
Pull the microphone down, please.
I'm sorry? Oh, that's, there, okay. You really want that loud? Okay. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Commissioner. My name is Judith Serrano, and my husband is Roberto. We live at 102 Honeysuckle Court. As a fellow member of our community, I am pretty sure that you all value living in a quiet and peaceful neighborhood, and sometimes we have to take action to keep it this way. We are opposing this wedding venue that Stephanie Macca wants to establish. This will bring noise, additional traffic to an already hazard intersection at the entrance of Roanoke and West Jefferson Pike in and out of our community. We bought our home 2 years ago, and we understood that this is a residential area. We never dreamt that there would be a business around the corner and backyards that would allow an influx of traffic, amplified music, and potential intoxicated clientele. Although Ms. Macca states that one security guard, two police persons will patrol and direct traffic at an event. Allowing this property an exception to zoning code would result in spot zoning and sets a dangerous precedent. This will transfer a current historical heritage property into a full-fledged commercial venue. The majority of our wonderful neighbors are elderly and retired. We chose this neighborhood community for its peacefulness, safety, and tranquility. Please do the right thing for our community and vote against this venue. Thank you.
Hello. Okay, y'all gonna tell I'm not a professional speaker, okay? So forgive me. Okay, I am absolutely for this. I'm sorry. Deborah Short, 1246 Malvern Drive, Murfreesboro. I live in Roanoke subdivision. I do not live the 50-foot and all that, but I do live in Roanoke subdivision, and I do have property that adjoins to Wildflower, which is not very far at all away from it. Okay. Why am I for it? Because this is America. And we all love and respect our neighbors. We respect our laws. We respect the people that are in our communities. And everyone should have the right to be able to do, and y'all vote for this so y'all know, the right, if they do it the right way, at the right place. So I'm thinking about my 4 granddaughters. Would it not be beautiful for my 4 granddaughters to be walking down the aisle at Riverside? A peaceful, lovely, beautiful place that's been restored, and it's going to be restored and kept that way. Okay, noise, you're right. Probably there will be a little bit of noise. I hope all the ambulances and fire engines and police trucks that go by all day long, you don't hurt the wedding, that they could still be able to hear the preacher when they're talking, because anybody lives in that subdivision knows I moved out there for the peace and quiet too. But am I going to say call the law every time a police car goes by? No. Is it loud? Yes. Did we used to have a race car driver that used to on Saturdays rib his engine for 2 hours every day? Yes. Loved the guy. Okay? That was his hobby. He loved doing it. More power to him. Okay? Do I understand that there are a lot of people that are worried? A little noise. I was so shocked that so many people got up and talked about this, and it's such an uproar in our neighborhood. You would think a rock band was going to be playing there over the weekend. You really would. I've been to a lot of weddings, and I've really never been to a wedding that I felt like it was shameful the way they acted and the noise they made. And I hope that Stephanie would not allow that. I hope it would be a dignified wedding at the place. I know that y'all have sat day after day, and we appreciate y'all listen to all of us, and we appreciate y'all taking all this into consideration. But just remember, there's 5 or 6 churches, and I wouldn't want anybody, I go to one of them, Heartland Baptist, and I wouldn't want anybody to tell me we can't have over 100 people at the church because we're causing too many problems parking, but we would love to have 100 people at our church, I assure you. Okay? So just vote your heart, vote common sense, and vote the way you always have. We've got stores, we've got post offices, we've got animal care places, we have trucking places, you name it, it is all on Jefferson, Pike, and Lascassas. Doesn't bother me any. Thank y'all.
My name is Whitney Lind, 9806 Roanoke Drive. I would like to read just paraphrase of the email that I sent our Commissioner Piercy. I said this: I understand you've received many calls and emails about the Riverside proposal and rezoning. My family and I live at 9806 Roanoke. We live just 4 houses down from the Riverside home. My mother and father have lived in this home since 1991, and we support the rezoning and believe it will not only add value to our homes, but also provide a safer neighborhood with the presence of those off-duty police officers. We understand there are concerns with potential noise and additional traffic with the making of Riverside a wedding venue. In regards to noise, as was previously stated, we do live in the county where noise abounds. Loud cars drive up and down our street, neighbors have noisy parties at times, and we can even hear fireworks shot off after Tennessee Vol football games. We do not have an HOA to enforce rules and regulations, and for that, my family is thankful. If we wanted to live in the quiet country, then we would choose a place without neighbors. However, we have good neighbors, neighbors that check up on each other and lend a helping hand when someone is in need. Miss Stephanie has also been hospitable to all of our neighbors and has continued to make adjustments and compromises in her plans. In regards to traffic, this is an issue with or without the addition of a small wedding retreat. Ms. Stephanie's inclusion of off-duty police officers during events will help drivers to slow down. A far greater danger in our neighborhood is young drivers. I was passed on 2 separate occasions in the last 3 months by a young teenage driver. I was driving 30, and a young man flew around me in our neighborhood to pass at 50 miles per hour. I'm guessing. Note, our home is only less than half a mile from the neighborhood entrance. I do understand that my neighbors have their concerns, but I also believe their concerns would be present even without these plans for Riverside. I also understand the importance of preserving history. Preserving historical sites cost money and requires a good business model to support such cost. So from a longtime resident, please consider supporting this plan to rezone the Riverside home. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeremy Lind. We live in 9806 Roanoke. That's my beautiful wife. I just felt like I had to come up here as I was listening to my neighbors and mention that we are, as Whitney said, completely in support of Miss Stephanie and everything that she's trying to do. I have heard quite a bit of what-ifs presented tonight, and if we live on what-ifs, then nothing would ever get done. From what I have seen of Miss Stephanie and her plans, she has looked at every possible outcome, and she has decided that everything is going to be safe, everything is going to be proper, and everything is going to be above board. And so our family loves Miss Stephanie. We are in complete support of it. And commissioners, I urge you to vote yes on this vote tonight. Thank you.
My name's Brian Murphy. I live at 1307 Wilton Court. I've lived there for 33 years. I've been at the meetings that she had. I was at the Planning Commission. I didn't talk. I listened to everybody. I don't oppose her. I opposed a venue. I would like you to think, would you want this in your neighborhood? I'm retired. I enjoy my retirement. And I do think the noise is an issue. There is noise from cop cars, but it's not going to sit there and play all the time. I do think there's an issue of the safety going in and out of that neighborhood. If you come out there and watch it, you'll understand. I would encourage you to vote no. Thank you very much.
My name is Beverly Jones. I live at 2420 Light Bend Drive in Murfreesboro. I no longer live in the Walter Hill community. I lived at Riverside for 15 years. My parents lived there. My mother was born there, as was her father and grandfather, and it was purchased by her great-grandfather the year the Civil War ended. I hated that I had to move and there was no family member ready to take the house over. When you're 55 and mowing 7 acres of grass every week, that's one thing. When you're 75, you realize probably don't need to be doing this a lot longer. I had 8 weddings when I lived at Riverside, mostly members of the community that just wanted to get married there, and I let them. And then a couple of friends of mine also wanted to have weddings. I had been their mailman in Smyrna. I don't think it really bothered anybody too much. As was mentioned, the house is considered historic, not because the Declaration of Independence was signed in the dining room, but because it's 192 years old, thank you. A lot of people, black and white, originated there. We had a reunion of them the year I moved in there, and there were 500 people there from 5 states. And it was quite an event. That was the black people that had been born there meeting with the white people who were descendants of the people that were born there. We had a blast, and I think everybody appreciated being able to go there. I don't remember any real qualms about any of these events. My parents redid the house the year I went to Vietnam in 1968. When I got home at the end of 1969, they were living in it. It had been mostly on the ground. The columns, the porch, the balcony, all that was rotted. My grandfather had been in bad health for several years, and it just went down. People are constantly saying it's awful that these old houses get torn down. Well, people like Stephanie Macca is hopefully going to be approved and carry on in the house, and you can't not keep a place up and have a wedding venue. Of course, my whole family is hoping that this passes because of that. Thank you.
Because I'm short. Thank you to the Board of Commissioners for allowing me the opportunity to address you and those gathered here this evening. My name is Amy Leach. I live at 1238 Randolph Street in the Wildflower subdivision, which is directly attached to the 1218 West Jefferson Pike property here in Murfreesboro. The large commercial nature of this PUD rezoning request has numerous and serious concerns as voiced within our community, including traffic safety on Route 266 West Jefferson Pike and Roanoke Drive, traffic ingress and egress, emergency service access, including law enforcement, fire, and medical personnel should there be an emergency. We're concerned about, of course, crowd and building safety, venue noise propagation, septic sewer limitations, drainage and runoff into the Stones River, which is located across the street, increased crime potential, and the devaluing of all residential properties in the immediate area. I mentioned to the Planning Commission in October of this year that 22.79 is the average number of acres to each of the rurally located Rutherford County venues. Those venues do not directly adjoin and abut neighborhoods such as ours. 6.97 is the number of acres for the proposed Macca Riverside wedding venue, and this property does abut against the neighborhood. 6.97 is almost 16 acres smaller than the Rutherford County average. In other words, this is 69% smaller than the existing county venues. This 1218 West Jefferson Pike is only 7 acres, and half of it is in the flood zone. That means all proposed construction would happen on 3.5 acres. A 4,000 square foot wedding venue with only 1 point of ingress and egress that hosts 100 people with 72 parking spots and additional event vendors, employees, and their vehicles on multiple days throughout the year for multiple hours will significantly increase the density of people and traffic in this area of West Jefferson Pike. I therefore oppose this PUD rezoning request and respectfully request that the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners vote no. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Consiglio-Young. I live at 2656 West Jefferson Pike, so just about a mile down, so I'm not right behind, but I am on Jefferson Pike, and I'm very familiar with all the trucks and garbage trucks and traffic and law enforcement that comes through, and it's always going to be a little bit loud, but I do want to maybe give a different perspective. I want to speak on behalf of Miss Macca and her family. I have known them for over 25 years. In fact, I went to high school with her. And there is no better family that would come in and preserve and protect property in our community than this family. And what they have proposed will allow for the historic site and the history attached with it, and those who built it and those that have lived there, those that have preserved this history so that our children learn about it. There is no better family to make sure that that continues. It's funny, today I was driving by with my 8-year-old son, and he didn't know about this. He wasn't not part of the things he's concerned about. But we were driving by, and we had another friend in the car, and he said to his friend, that historic site is just that we drive by it every day, and I would love to go in there and see it. I would love to visit it and go in there and learn about that. And I wanted to so badly tell him that he was about to have the opportunity to do that. So I just urge you all to support this, to move it forward for the next generation so that they are interested in history and that they know it's in their backyard. And Miss Macca and her family will do everything in their absolute power to preserve that. And as a fellow Italian, I can assure you that it is within our blood and within it's ingrained in us to preserve and teach you about history. So it's my pleasure to speak for her, and I do hope you approve this. Thank you for letting me speak, and thank you for serving Rutherford County.
Yes, my name is Mike Boyer, and I live at 1331 Wilton Court. They were talking about the sound deadening and all that. Well, on the websites, the USDA says that a 100-foot strip of trees will only deaden the sound 5 to 8 decibels. That's not enough to mount anything. They'd have to have 3 or 4 rows of trees out there to do any good. There's a lot of traffic at the intersection there. That intersection needs to be improved the way it is, because visibility looking to the east, for me it's okay. I'm in a truck, I sit up. But when I'm in somebody's car, you can barely see over that hill in their front yard. So it's a dangerous situation. I've heard a lot of people say that she's a good person. I don't know her personally. I don't know if she is. I'm not against her as a person. I'm against the venue. Another concern of mine is alcohol consumption. Now, she says she's not going to serve alcohol, but she could bring somebody in, or they can bring their own alcohol. Are the police officers on duty going to be kind of keeping an eye on that so that we don't get any more DUIs on drivers on the road? I think that's about all I got to say. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Gus Vargas. I am a resident of Rutherford County. I live in I'm a veteran.
Give him your microphone, Mike. Mike, give him your microphone.
Thank you very much. Once again, my name is Gus Vargas. I'm a resident of Rutherford County. I live here in in Murfreesboro. I live nowhere near the proposed site. And as I also stated, I'm a veteran. I've served our country for a lifetime. I'm not originally from Rutherford County. But in the 23 years that I've lived here in Middle Tennessee, I've known Miss Macca and her family. I've known of them to run 3 businesses, both starting in Williamson, Davidson, and now she's proposing to, as a young lady, as a young entrepreneuring lady, is proposing to start a business here. I know that I know that her family has run quality businesses. They've never attracted undesirables. Quite honestly, their businesses have been very successful and serve the communities. I feel, yes, for the residents of the proposed area, I understand their concerns. But however, Jefferson Pike, it's not a back road. It's a main thoroughfare. And if not this business, there's going to be other things that are going to come into the community. And pros and cons to that, I guess. But as I stated, I've known her and her family for 23 years, and I know that she would introduce revenue into the community as well as employment for folks, and it would all be quality. Those are my feelings. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Hello, my name is Kathy George. I live at 9007 Dandelion, which is one property over from Jefferson Pike. I'm in the Wildflowers area. I'd like to know where these people live that they say it's quiet over there, because it is far from quiet. It's noisy. Jefferson Pike is noisy. We hear sirens all hours of the day, all hours of the night. There's traffic. So a wedding venue for a couple hours on the weekend is not going to add to that. In fact, I would rather hear maybe some joyful noises and some music rather than all of the traffic that I hear. Secondly, what's going to change that area is if some developer gets a hold of that property and turns it into 50 houses. And we really need to consider that as a community. Houses are going up all over Rutherford County. You know it better than I do, I'm sure. So when some developer gets a hold of that and turns it into 50 houses, which they will, we are going to have noise, more traffic, and a lot bigger problems. So I am clearly in support of this proposal, and preserve the property as it is now, because it is not going to add more noise to what is already there. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Ramona DeSalvo. I and my combat veteran son, Ryan DeSalvo, live at 9620 Roanoke Drive, immediately adjacent to this property. The house faces Jefferson Pike. I am the first house on Roanoke on the right-hand side. I am 100% opposed to this. I've lived in this house for almost 16 years. I've invested in it. I just paid it off in January, expecting to live there. That's why I paid for it. But you hear all these wonderful things about Miss Macca. I don't know her. I've talked to her one time. But I can tell you that in writing to our neighbors, she quoted scripture telling us to love our neighbor as ourselves, that she's a blessing to us, and that she treats her neighbors like gold, just like her family. That isn't, unless you disagree with this plan. I want you to know that Ms. Macca has publicly called me a liar on social media. I've had dog feces thrown in my driveway. I've had spotlights shined in my windows. Her advocates at the last hearing mocked me, accused me of being a criminal. I was threatened with being choked, and I was assaulted right outside these doors as I left this meeting for the Planning Commission. And it's an injury that I have to live with now for about 3 months. This is because I don't want to commercialize our residential neighborhood. I bought a house next to a home on a historic register across from government property because I believed that I was secure that that would not be able to be changed. And now I'm facing that in a tremendous uproar in my life. My concerns are fact-based and legitimate. It is not personal. This has nothing to do with Ms. Macca and her character and her family. My concerns are, and I sent you all in great detail, and I sent it to Mr. DeMasi so he would share it with you. There's a hydrology report that I provided from a soil engineer that the drainage impact on my property occasioned by that proposed building is going to impact my property. We've all talked about the traffic, but at what is already a dangerous intersection, but I provided a video to you that would illustrate it. I also provided to you the traffic accidents report of the number of accidents that have occurred in that immediate area, including one where Life Flight had to come and carry people out. I've had 3 cars fly through my front yard coming off of Jefferson Pike around that corner. A truck, that my son witnessed this, a truck came around Jefferson Pike and drove right through the hedge that is supposed to be the sound barrier. There's a giant gaping hole in it because a pickup truck decided to leave the road and fly through that. The most recent incident happened last month with someone coming through my front yard. It's a dangerous place. The noise from the comings and goings in a parking lot right outside my bedroom window with drinking and smoking, partying late at night. The music may stop, but the noise isn't going to stop at 10 o'clock. And I know there will be crime, and I base that on not just random fear of what if, but because I have been a prosecuting attorney and I have been a criminal defense attorney and have been involved in cases in wedding venues. I had a client almost beaten to death in the parking lot of a wedding venue. I had another one struck and injured severely by a drunk driver leaving a wedding venue. I'm worried about a dumpster being in my backyard. I'm worried about the fire hazards. There's no fire lanes, and the only hydrant that would be able to put a fire out at my house and all of my neighbors' house is being blocked by shrubbery, and there's no fire lane there. I also would like you to know that I did present you with the 74 signatures of people who actually live in the neighborhood. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Last call.
My name is Rebecca Beasley. I live at 9627 Roanoke Drive. I moved to Rutherford County in 1982. In those 40 years, I've seen a lot of growth. As a matter of fact, I looked up some growth here. In 1830, when the home was built at Riverside, there were 786 people in Rutherford County. 2021, we had 352,182 people. We're not a small county anymore. I'm sorry, I'm very nervous. We signed the contract to build our home in Walter Hill subdivision in 1987. It wasn't long after we moved in there that I realized subdivision life was not going to be any quieter than where I lived in town. The traffic, it was slow at first, but as more homes were built, it got heavier. Also, everyone is in a hurry, whether it's leaving the subdivision or entering. Speeding is the rule, not the exception. As for the intersection of Roanoke and Jefferson Pike, it is as difficult or as dangerous as you make it. If you stop and look, you will be safe. And take more than 5 seconds to stop and look. Noise. Early on, there were a lot of kids in our subdivision. I don't know how your Halloween was, but we didn't have any. In the big times there in Roanoke, we had 125. That would have been in the mid-90s. We raised 4 daughters in our home. Kids equal noise, not always welcome noise. We have neighbors, when their son was young, bottle rockets were his favorite things. I don't know how many times bottle rockets woke me in the middle of the night. I didn't call the police. I just hoped he would outgrow this infatuation soon or move. Like I said, it was years. Our next door neighbor enjoyed volleyball games every Sunday for a few years. We have loud radios and sub traveling through. Bottom line, subdivision living is not always peaceful and quiet. The traffic noise on Jefferson Pike and the sirens that are a daily occurrence, and then the big trucks and their Jake brakes will be a reason for Stephanie to make sure that her wedding retreat is quiet. Nobody is going to want to have a wedding in a place where they're going to hear sirens. And sirens, it's just a way of life. This wedding retreat, I'm sorry. Lights. When we moved outside the city limits to avoid lights, we were in for a rude awakening. We were hoping for nice stargazing with total darkness. We didn't take into account the folks that didn't like total darkness. First, the Joneses have a security light. At the back of our property, there's a security light on Jefferson Pike to light that driveway for those folks. There are other homes all around us with porch lights, floodlights, driveway lights. In the years, there have been, I'm sorry.
Fine.
Thank you. I really think it will help the county to have this venue. And I just think it would be in our best interest. Thank you all for your attention. Sorry.
Good evening. Chairman Phillips, Mayor Carl. My name is Opal Gilliam. I live at 9619 Roanoke Drive, just across the street from Riverside, lot number 1. First, I, with permission from Mr. Phillips, would like to quote him in his opening remarks when he took over as chairman of our county commission. Quote, "Rule of life, do unto others as you would have them do unto you." What it doesn't say, do unto others before they do unto you. Listen to all, seek others' input, and wait until we have listened thoroughly before we make decisions. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up as wings on eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. His addition was, teach me, Lord, to listen and to wait. Be open-minded about your service. Listen without judgment and encourage without conditions. Look at what it is, not rumors, as we've had, of what people think it is. One day in early spring, my doorbell rang, and standing on my porch was a beautiful young girl with black hair and red lips. She told me her business, and I invited her in. We had a very long conversation about what she had plans for at Riverside, if approved. I told her it all sounded good to me. I was glad to see someone who wanted to preserve the historical aspect of this place. I have lived in this neighborhood for 30 years, and I know what could have been done with it, torn down, with several houses built on the grounds. Instead, she wants to keep it as a monument to Rutherford County's local history, to be preserved for future generations, not a grocery store, as one woman suggested to me. Some of my neighbors who were opposed to this venture have left misinformed notes containing untruths on my door and in my paper box, with ugly, hateful texts on my phone, simply because I was in favor of what Ms. Macca is trying to do. I firmly believe this matter has gone on for too long, and I would request that this body vote in favor of the zoning change. After all, Mr. and Mrs. Jones had run a business there for many years. As one of our state representatives, Mark Green, said upon his re-election recently, and I quote, I will fight for policies to empower every Tennessean to pursue their American dream. And I believe that's what she's wanting to do. And another thing I want to say is, talking about the septic tanks, every house in that neighborhood is on a septic tank system. We're all living on it. So, what's the big deal? The man at the Planning Commission told us that the state would even approve them putting it in a sinkhole. What's the big deal? And I want to say to the Joneses, Mr. and Ms. Jones took me and my husband in under their wing when we moved here. She carried me to church. She brought me food. She loved me, and I loved her. And Stephanie is the same thing. I've had 2 back surgeries in the last 3 months. She's brought me food. She's been a neighbor. I love her. I met her family. They are wonderful people, and I think they're a great addition to our county. And I ask you to vote yes for this.
Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? My name's David Brown. I reside at 1212 Hawkins Street in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm a Blue Raider graduate, lived here for 5 years, longtime friend of Ms. Macca, and I'm here tonight representing Honky Tonk Construction as a general contractor for the project. Just want to ensure everybody that whatever is approved here tonight or any later processes with planning and zoning will be built to all state, local building codes, and that we do specialize in residential and commercial exterior construction, and that I do value my license. I put my word and my reputation on the line that we'll do what we say for whatever weight that carries, and we hope you approve this, and we would be excited to build it and add it to the community and increase revenue and drive business for Rutherford County. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Tim Guy. I live at 187 Cutoff Road. and I am 100% for this. Met Miss Stephanie and her family, and I believe when you see everything going on, you're going to see that she meets or exceeds from the last meeting. One of the commissioners, some things that he wanted, that's being done. And I know there's a few people here, we got pros and cons, and we thank you, commissioners, for sitting and listening to everything going on. And I really, truly hope you vote yes for this. If you want to see some of the things that's going on in this neighborhood, all you got to do is go on Facebook to Hip Walter Hill, famous Lascassas, next door Roanoke neighbors, and you'll see hundreds of people that posted on there that they were in favor of this and they were backing her. And it's just amazing how many people come. I wish we could get all of them in here, but this room couldn't hold them all for everybody that is in favor of her. She's doing outstanding work. I want to thank Mr. Jones and his family. Going back to your ancestors, thank you. Easily could have lost that home many years ago. If you've lived out in this neighborhood for any time, I've lived out there 23 years, and I remember when Powell's Chapel wasn't there. And if you had been out there, you would have known at the corner of Catherine and Jefferson Pike used to sit another old house, similar to what Mr. Jones. It's gone. The next one, I believe that's oldest around there, will be the one on Powell's Chapel, just before J.D. Todd. An older lady was living there. I don't know if she's still around or not. She is still there. One day, that whole property, we're not careful, it's going to be a subdivision. Where I live, right across is Griffith Park. When I moved out to Walter Hill 23 years ago, I had deer in my front yard and turkeys all the time. All that's gone. Griffith Park's well over 300 homes, and if any of y'all knew that, the one property right off of Old Lebanon Road was a horse farm. It's gone. And in fact, when they were developing that property, they found a cemetery that wasn't even on the register, and it dated way back. They said whoever it was must have had money, because they went through a lot of detail to preserve that gravesite, and it's now been moved. It's over another piece up underneath the tree, and I'm sure that's not what the ancestors wanted. I'm thankful that Ms. Stephanie wants to do this and hopefully take this money, and for years to come, as the one lady said with her son driving by, when you go by and look at that house and you just wonder the history that's there from 1830s and how many people were in and out of that place, and would have loved to see pictures when Roanoke was a field. I encourage you, commissioners, to please vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Matt Taylor of SEC, located at 850 Middle Tennessee Boulevard here in Murfreesboro. I represent Ms. Stephanie, the applicant on the project, and did want to point out a few things and address a couple of comments. When you think of where commercial uses are to be located, it's to be at the intersection of arterial roads and collector roads. That's exactly what Roanoke and Jefferson Pike are. This meets the exact definition of that. It is not tucked back into the middle of a neighborhood. This is along Jefferson Pike that sees the garbage trucks, the dump trucks, the semi-trucks, and the many, many, many vehicles that we've heard about tonight. This is exactly where you would think that a commercial use would be located. We've done that while preserving the residential character that many people have talked about by preserving this house instead of tearing the house down. It's a very unique opportunity to save a historic structure in our community, one that I don't think I've been a part of in many of my projects over the last 18 years. We have proposed for all of our improvements, the parking, the barn, to be located 250 to 300 feet away from the closest houses that are around us. That's a football field away. A wise man once told me the best buffer is separation, and that's exactly why those structures are located where they are. We've proposed these improvements to create this rural retreat while trying to preserve this historic home. Again, that's a very unique opportunity. My client has listened to the neighbors, met with the neighbors multiple times. She's made compromises and modifications to her plan all along. She's done that to address traffic by eliminating the access onto Jefferson Pike during events. She's went to the effort to commit to hiring off-duty police officers to manage traffic during her events. She has limited the number of patrons to 100. She's reduced that by 30% from her original proposal of 150. And then she's limited her events to the weekend times when there's already less traffic on the roads and in the area. To help with noise, she's moved all of her receptions inside. She has asked for the ability to host the wedding itself outside, but as we all know, that is a very intimate and quiet event. The reception is what the noise is creating. The sound engineer that Ms. Stephanie has already hired, I think that's inside of your packet, is only the first step. That was in direct response to comments made at the Planning Commission. And so all the standards set forth inside of this PUD will be addressed at the site plan. Just as with all zoning standards, those are addressed at the site plan. This PUD sets those standards. We have to show that we're meeting those standards when we get to a site plan level. She's already installed landscaping, has committed to install further landscaping and fencing, and again, the distance, again, mitigates the noise. We've also heard concerns of drainage and floods. We have very purposefully located all of our improvements outside the flood zone. We've limited new impervious areas by committing to using grass pave inside of our parking lot. And as with all of our site plans and subdivisions in Rutherford County, we'll have to have stormwater features designed at the site plan that will be designed by a licensed engineer such as myself and reviewed by your county engineer before any permits are pulled. Furthermore, we're downhill of everybody else that is inside of Roanoke subdivision. So all of their water runs onto us. It is not the other way around. And then we've heard concerns about the septic. And we've already had a soil scientist on site say there is plentiful amount of suitable soil to accommodate the use and the size of this facility. But that will again have a check at the site plan level where TDEC has to issue a permit before we do our building permits. So myself or my client are here to answer any questions if you might have those of us after the hearing. Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead. Come on. Come on. I'm stealing her thunder. I don't mean to steal your thunder. My name's Sean Henry. I'm a land use attorney, 500 11th Avenue North in Nashville, representing Ms. Macca, the property owner. There's been a lot said about her event being a commercial operation, but what's really important about your zoning code is a wedding retreat center is permitted in a residential district, so long as you have 10 acres minimum site size. So what she's proposing here is not something that's not permitted in a residential district. It is. She only has 7 acres. That's the only reason we're in front of you. If she had 10 acres, this decision would be made by the Board of Zoning Appeals. But she's got less than 10 acres, so that requires this PUD approach. And the PUD establishes standards for the design of the site and performance standards, how she has to operate the site, operate the business. And so it's part of the zoning legislation that you would approve. And it's actually better than what the Board of Zoning Appeals would have, because you've got that packet that's got a lot of details in it that would be made part of the legislation here. The staff report that was considered by the Planning Commission, which you presently have, has some, I think, some pretty compelling evidence. Number one, the use is appropriate under the county comprehensive plan.
Traffic concerns you've heard about, but what's interesting is the traffic volume has decreased on West Jefferson since 2019. I don't know how, but that's what the data reveals. On the traffic incident data, there's been 11 non-serious vehicle incidents over the past 5 years. And of those, the majority were encounters with a ditch. 3 people went in the ditch. 2 people hit 2 incidents with deer, and 1 incident with shrubbery that I think you heard someone testify about it earlier. The 10 o'clock shutdown, that's critically important. The reason that's in your code of laws is to keep the peace, so that people can have peace at night. And that applies across the county. And so if there's a violation of the noise ordinance, or if there's activity beyond 10 p.m., that's where the neighbors can call the police and she can be cited and this operation can be shut down, just like any other business, any other operation that's not abiding by the law. You have a very professional package in front of you. Ms. Macca has done an incredible job. You see the professionals that she's working with. She's spending an incredible amount of money trying to preserve this structure, and it is on the National Register of Historic Places. That registration is by the National Park Service. So they think very highly of the property and the building. You have historic preservation letters in support of this. And regarding the acoustical analysis by the sound engineer, I'm going to quote what he concludes with construction methods and materials, the goal of achieving maximum sound reduction, notably on the east side of the venue, will be achieved for a total reduction of 70 decibel levels. And of course, we got to execute on that, and the construction will be executed on that. And you have inspectors to make sure that as it's constructed according to the standards that are required. So Planning Commission supported this, recommended to you to support this by a vote of yes. We ask that you do the same. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Shernette Turek. I live at 9711 Roanoke Drive. I'm a little nervous, dressed up tonight. Thought I'd get in the group. I am for this venue, okay? I think if we separate what people feel that they have a right, oh, I don't want that, so you shouldn't do that. You know, to take the personal feelings out of it. This is going to be progress and also preservation at the same time. And that's win-win for our county. And you can't get better than that. There's lots of things that she is offering that's not just for the county, actually for people outside of the county to come in and learn about the history of this home. I think one of the first people to come up and speak made a statement that nothing good was in that house, and the only thing is it's old. Well, I disagree with that. There's a lot of history there, a lot of history. And I believe there's a lot of people that you've heard tonight. If you could bring all of the family that come within those walls, we'd be here all night, even with 3 minutes. So I would really like for everybody that has the power to approve this to please consider that. You know, I mean, we need this. And it's a positive thing. The only thing that she is asking, and y'all have the power, is to go after the American dream. And that is what we are here. And if Mr. and Mrs. Jones didn't sell the property and have the progress of Roanoke, then none of us would be here tonight, now would we? There wouldn't be a subdivision and there wouldn't be an argument because she wants to have a wedding venue. It's a good thing. Thank you.
Not until everyone else has spoken.
My name is Michael Jacobson. I reside at 1333 Randolph Street. First, I'd like to thank all the members here, not just for letting me speak, but for the combat wounded parking space in front of the courthouse. There aren't a lot of people who do that anymore, and we do appreciate it. And I have the largest piece of property. We bought here in 2009, came from Florida, from Palm Beach County, and we bought here in 2009. It was close to the VA hospital. I hardly ever this is a field trip for me. I hardly ever leave the property because I have PTSD and all sorts of other things, and I need to be close to the hospital. And we bought this because it said, as we drove in, it was a closed road. There was no exit out of there. It was very quiet. I've heard old people say all sorts of things. You would need another day to go through the lies that have been told here tonight, just the ones that I heard. And it's amazing what some people are getting away with. The one fellow said that all the water from drains into Riverside. Riverside sits on a hill. Half of it, 7 acres, 3.5 of it is in the floodplain, and the other sits on a hill. Its water drains into us. When I bought here in 2009, the house across the street was taken down in a tornado. Welcome to Tennessee. And there was a crash on Jefferson Pike, and a helicopter landed in BJ's field and took the woman who died away. I mean, there's always noise. BJ made a lot of noise. He used to mow the grass on every day that ended in a Y. So I understand why he's sold. I'm 75 also. And I just need quiet. I know there are 12 to 18 veterans within a short distance of the property, all opposed to the wedding venue, and many for noise. Some, like me, are totally disabled, and we're all mostly old that served in Vietnam. Although one person who talked, her son served in Afghanistan, a Marine. And so the veterans are opposed in general. We want a little quiet. I don't want to have to move. Finding someplace to live near a VA hospital is difficult, and this is a pretty good one. It's been very good to me. And I've had surgery at Vanderbilt, and so between two VA hospitals, it's really good. And I have the longest property line there. Sound is a problem. And they promised at the zoning commission, the one zoning commissioner, that something would be done. He mentioned everything, and that special type plastic fencing isn't going to hack it to abate noise. And the trees, first there weren't 50 trees, you can go and count, and half of them are dead or dying, the others are dying. And a fellow who knows something about horticulture says they are infested with spiders. And we went to the Extension Institute where they have professionals, and they told us that that type of tree would kill our, we planted over 50 trees. We have an arbor, we have apple trees, plum trees, just about everything. And it's going to kill it. But anyway, thank you. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you for the parking space. And thank you to the new mayor. Thank you, sir. Do something about that dump. I'm waiting.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sebastian Jacobson. I live at 1333 Randolph Street. That was my father. 3 Purple Hearts, Silver Star, Bronze Star from Vietnam. We moved here in 2009. I've done nothing except take care of him full time. Gave up my life for that man because no greater love have any man than to give up his life for his friends, and my dad is my friend. I love him. And he didn't get any sleep last night because of this situation. So this morning I wrote all you an email because of the findings that we found out. You know, everybody that says that they know Miss Stephanie Macca, as far as I'm concerned, her name is Stephanie Hemyari. And everybody calls her Stephanie Macca. So I say, well, what's wrong with that picture? Okay, what else is wrong here? She sent us a letter that she said we're going to have 20% off at Joey's House of Pizza. And we thought there was going to be a pizza place going into the corner, which was misinformation. But then I found out that Joey's House of Pizza is no more, and so that was a lie. So I said, oh my gosh, this woman's a liar. Her last name is not even Macca. So we looked up the records. It's Macca Hemyari. Then she gets pulled over in Nashville for talking on the phone, and she gives the police officer her name of Stephanie Hemyari, not Stephanie Macca, not Stephanie Macca Hemyari, but Stephanie Hemyari. So we don't know what the truth is here and what is not the truth as far as this situation is concerned, to be quite honest with you. She says she planted 50 trees. I sent the video to you all. I went on Ramona's property and I took the video. Those trees are all dying or they're dead. I mean, they're all brown. And so there is no sound buffer. There is no type 3 buffering system going on here. She planted those trees in a quick, hasty situation to say, look what I've done already. And the trees are all dying. If that's not a harbinger, I don't know what is, okay? But there is no buffer there. There is no 50 trees. That's in her pattern book, and that's just not true. So there are so many lies. My father is right. There's so many lies that we have discovered, and we have sent some of this information to all of you, the 21 commissioners that have our fate in your hands. Because this is, you know, how should I put this? We didn't move here to be fighting a wedding venue. When we met BJ Beverly Jones, he gave us almost an acre of land for free. Who does that? Who gives somebody an acre, almost an acre of land for free? Well, that was the Lord. So we figured the Lord had us here for the right particular time, and we love BJ as our neighbor. We prayed for him. He invited us over. We didn't even know what fruit tea was until he made us some fruit tea. And so it's one of our favorite things now. Thank you to BJ. We love the property that he gave us. We planted an orchard. Stephanie planted these juniper trees. Guess what? I told even Mr. Piercy, who we have a lot of respect for, Steve Piercy, because we go to his general merchandise store and we buy things there. We get the non-ethanol gas there. And I told him, I said, Steve, she planted these trees and they're causing rust. I mean, they killed our pear tree and our apple trees that we planted. So what about that? What about us? You know, we're talking about a house. It's an idol. It's a house. It's a thing. You want to preserve a house, or do you want to preserve 74 petition signatures that are vehemently opposed to this wedding venue? So you're going to go for protecting a house that's not going to be torn down. That's another lie. The Stovers who own that house spent $100,000 preserving that house. They put a new roof on it, even though BJ put a new roof on it. They did one 4 years later. And they put new air conditioning system. They had Lee and Company do it, Governor Lee's company. They made sure that that house was up to par. And as far as we're concerned, we just want a family that's going to move into that house, to take that house over and live in it and be a neighbor. Because the definition of a neighbor is somebody that dwells next to you. And Stephanie Hemyari has never dwelt in that house, nor does she ever plan to dwell in that house. She's a savvy businesswoman, I give her that much, but she's also a liar. So her character is in question here. Thank you.
I know that we have better things to do. I kind of miss my remote control. I'm missing my movie tonight. Anyway, my name is Roberto Serrano. My wife came up to the podium, and I'm going to skip everything she said. She summed it up. I live on 102 Honeysuckle Court. I'm a retired first sergeant from the United States Marine Corps, Force Recon. I have listened and assessed everything that everybody had to say, their complaints. And it's pretty much common sense. You know what they say, that the proof is in the pudding, pretty much. Gentlemen, I address you and ladies. Oh, by the way, I like your smile. Thank you very much. This is not a laughing matter. This is not a joke. All this is a fact, what's happening in the community. Oh, I want to, before I forget, thank you for the potholder that you sent us. We decided to put it on the mantle on the fireplace as a Christmas sock. We were short one, and we appreciate that. Thank you very much. We're paisan. Anyway, how much time do I get left?
I don't know.
That's very good, sir. Well, I felt compelled. Like I said, I assessed everything that everybody said in their complaints. You have to realize the impact that is committed to this community. There's been sleepless nights. We've been living there for 2 years. I decided, my wife and I, to retire because the community is very quiet. People are friendly. There's a lot of retired professionals there. And what I heard, it's an insult to the people that live in that community. We have intelligent people that live there, not including myself. But you got to listen to their cry and their facts. This is not made up. What's happening in the community and what's going on is affecting everybody. It's affecting me. I want to be able to sleep at night. I feel honored and privileged to live in that community because I feel, with all the training that I have, that I could be of service to the community. And we need common sense. We need a common sense solution to really solve this problem in favor of the people that look up to you. I don't know much of you, but I'm pretty sure that I put my ballot in and I voted. And I appreciate you just as much as you appreciate our veterans and having me this opportunity to sit up here. I normally don't do this. And I'm not very good at it, but I'm very good at telling the truth. So please consider, do your homework, and do justice for the people of the community. So we all can go home tonight and feel that justice will prevail. Thank you much for your time. I forget names, but I don't forget faces. So next time I see you on the ballot, I'll remember you are. Now I can associate the face with the name. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone else?
I too am a little nervous tonight. I've never done this before. So, my name is Lisa Duke Kroll. My address is 1339 Wilton Court, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I'm speaking this evening as a Rutherford County citizen, as a resident of Roanoke subdivision, and as a taxpayer. I would like to begin with stating that I am strongly opposed to Riverside being allowed to be rezoned to a rural retreat or event venue. And the Riverside property is 540 feet from my backyard. If it is only allowed for weekends, that is when I'm at home. I go home for rest. I feel secure at home. And I enjoy my family on the weekends, like birthdays, Easter, family stuff. I moved into my home in October of 1987, and I never thought that I would be fighting such a battle to keep what peace and quiet we have right now so that we continue to enjoy our own backyards. Wedding treats are currently a trend, while the preservations each of you have been provided is beautiful, and it's a sellable idea. Riverside is not the location for a venue. Jefferson Pike is already heavy with traffic. At Roanoke Drive, there's blind spots and hills. It is not suitable to funnel traffic from Riverside onto Roanoke Drive. While they call it a connector road, you will frequently see walkers, joggers, and even a bike rider goes all the way down to the stop sign. There's no shoulder on Jefferson Pike or on Roanoke Drive. When I moved to Roanoke in 1987, I was told, and it's always been said to me, that Jefferson Pike is the most dangerous road in Rutherford County. Now, I don't know if that's true, but it's said. And to even go a little further, they even say that the S-curves is the most dangerous curves on Jefferson Pike. On a Wednesday, 2 nights after the Planning Commission meeting that my husband and I attended regarding Riverside, I was on my way home from church. My husband called and said, "Don't turn on Jefferson Pike. There's been a wreck." What happened was a teenage girl driving on Jefferson Pike hit the end of the guardrail at the end of that little bridge because someone coming toward her took the curve too wide, causing her to go towards the ditch, which resulted in her hitting the end of the guardrail. It spun her car around. Her airbags went out. Then, my husband come up on the wreck. A man was trying to get her out of her car. Jeff stopped. He turned his car, the older man asked Jeff to turn his truck around so oncoming traffic would not hit them as they were trying to get her out of that car. This is an example of what we're trying to say. This is my backyard. It's my home. I have worked hard to pay for. Some of you know my story, some of you don't. Some of you would appreciate it. I would appreciate if you would consider that those that are truly affected by the noise and by the traffic, the dangerous driving conditions on Jefferson Pike, the walkers, the joggers, and those that live within 1,000 feet, it will change our lives, and not for the better. Please hear the outcry of our oppositions to this rezoning request. I've talked to a couple of venue owners. They say that they have wedding venues. The demand is not there. They have to have other events there.
Time.
Thank you for listening to me.
Larry Sims. I live at 537 East Main Street. Doug, see, where's Doug at? Doug, is it going to be a 3 or 4 lane on Jefferson Pike? Do you know? Huh? When they widen it, going to be a 5 lane. Now think about that, a 5 lane. I'm going to tell you, everything up and down Jefferson Pike is going to go commercial. There's no doubt about it. These people don't like it over there. They better get ready to find another place to live, because that's just going to set it afire. The best example is when they made a 5 lane going to Shelbyville from Murfreesboro. You see what happened down there. So it's just progress, and unfortunately, you're in the wrong spot. But you're in a good spot because you're going to get a lot of money for your property. That's the good thing about it. This is a good plan. You know, I presented a plan before this one on Gum Road, and we made a gas station. If I had this property, I would have nothing to do with it, hadn't sold it. I'd be having a gas station up here and a convenience store and maybe a dollar general store. So I'm telling you, some things can be a lot worse than what they're trying to get done. It's a wonderful plan. The lady's trying to do it, Stephanie. I've never been impressed with anybody more than I have with her. I've been doing this 45 years. I know what she's going to do. Thank you.
No repeats. Let me kind of explain that a little bit. If we have repeats, we'll be up here repeating the rest of the night. So our process is no repeats. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Tesha Young. We live at 10,001 Roanoke. There are so many people that are opposed to this. There are so many people that are in favor of this. I really feel for you guys. You have a very hard decision to make. I, for one, am for this. You're not going to be able to please everyone tonight. I just wanted to say bless you. And I hope that everybody goes home with a good conscience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Thank you so much for everyone for being here. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present the Riverside Wedding Retreat project. May I please have the video? Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Stephanie Macca. It's on. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. 1218 West Jefferson Pike. I'm sorry. So behind me we have the rendering of 1218 West Jefferson Pike. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present the Riverside Wedding Retreat project. It is a preservation project which will safeguard and protect the nationally registered landmark, the Randolph House. It's commonly known as Riverside. Riverside was built in 1830 and originally consisted of thousands of acres. Riverside was a cattle and cotton farm for over a century, an antique shop for over 40 years, and is a long-standing community gathering place where several special occasions have taken place. Numerous Rutherford County residents have shared happy memories and special events at Riverside. Riverside is an extraordinarily unique property for many reasons. In addition to Riverside being a nationally registered landmark, a highlight includes the discovery of bullets and bullet holes located in the walls at the home, which date back to the Civil War. Another most precious reason for Riverside being so special is attributed to the Randolph family reunions. My family and I would be honored to carry the torch of this beautiful tradition. This historical gem, Riverside, received the attention from the Tennessee Historical Society, which is partnering with the Center of Historical Preservation. They plan to create history exhibits in both cabins, which are located on the historical property. All proceeds which are generated from these history tours will be donated to a nonprofit organization which has a mission to preserve and share history. While much of Rutherford County continues to grow and change, Riverside will remain in a good state of preservation. The Riverside Wedding Retreat will safeguard the use of open space and keep a beautified land supervised with restrained growth. The adaptive reuse of this historical treasure will allow and ensure its preservation. The Riverside Wedding Retreat will keep the character and integrity of charming Walter Hill alive for generations to come. The Riverside Wedding Retreat will serve as a major asset to Rutherford County as well as the entire state of Tennessee. My team and I are willing to thoroughly mitigate any and all concerns. We have and will continue to surpass the necessary requirements. All of our efforts, including but not limited to noise-canceling materials, which will be used to build the wedding barn, the partnership with Off-Duty Blue, which will control traffic, the use of security, off-peak hours of operation, and the high standards and ethics which are instilled in the Riverside Wedding Retreat's Code of Honor, all contribute to a successful operation.
15
It would be my great honor to get your approval.
Last call. Anyone else? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner Piercy, we're done.
This has been going on a long time. I started hearing about this in June. The rest of you being called about it is my fault, because I recommended that they contact every commissioner on this commission floor. Everybody needs to have a say-so in this. Everybody here's, they've got an opinion. I want to see you spend your opinion on this project. I have not lobbied you for your support. Nobody in here can say I have asked you to vote one way or the other. I want this to be fair. I want you to use your common sense. I want you to look beyond the smoke and the mirrors and actually see the facts. And good and bad both spoke at that podium tonight. Maybe one or two was way out of hand. I would like to take this opportunity to apologize to Ms. Macca for being called what you were called. That's not the type of commission floor we operate in Rutherford County. It may not be my place to do it, but I've done it. Now to get on with this process. I've been accused of having a venue. I own up to it. I have nothing to hide. I have several different business ventures. If I had a conflict called on everything I do, I'd have to go home. I've never let any of my businesses affect my opinion or my conclusion of my people's opinion that live in my district. I keep it separate. We're supposed to leave our personal issues outside that door when we come in here to make a decision, and make your decision on facts, not what you heard, what you know, what you can see. Make it on facts. I was even told that I've had a commissioner solicit support for this venue, though it's in my district. That's quite all right with me. I'm okay with it. No problem. It's your choice. You can act to be the commissioner you choose to be. I'm good with it. But on to this conclusion of this venue, I've had multiple calls. I've had multiple emails. It has been demanded of me that I support this. Me and demands don't go good together. I'd rather have been asked. There are issues there that cannot be fixed. Noise has been a big topic tonight. It can't be stopped. It could possibly be muffled to a certain degree, but we have no venue police to go out there and make sure this is operated to the rules that we even set up by. We don't have a noise ordinance, not that's effective. I heard Mr. P say the other night he had worked on one a long time and yet to really get any results that would really stand up. The road there is bad. It's been said 1,000,000 times. There's high spots on one side, dips on the other one. The people have trouble getting in and out of their subdivision. If it wasn't a road issue, the state never would have come out and put the little signs up with the blinking light on it. They done what they could do. A turning lane was never even offered because didn't figure it would even work anyway. So the traffic's been shoved on down on these people that live in Roanoke subdivision. My numbers don't match the numbers that were here tonight. I had several more in opposition than I had for this project. When I was first contacted, she come and met with me in my business. I welcomed her. First thing I told her, I said, hey, go see your neighbors. Let me know how it turns out. Come back in a few days, maybe had one or two, little opposition, had 2 or 3, thought it'd be okay. Well, I thought, that's unusual for Walter Hill. I give it about a week, and then with the help of my personal email and telephone being placed on Facebook, Facebook is a great tool. The calls rolled in like cold water. They knew who to call. Most people didn't know who to call till that was done. And in the end, it worked against the people that put that information out, because that's where most of the negative calls come from. They had concerns. I want you to vote on my motion tonight the way you can go home and sleep the best. That's how I want you to vote. Don't vote for me. Vote about the motion, not because I made it. I know I'm the commissioner in the district. History shows up. Most of the time, the commission follows the district. I would appreciate that, but I don't want you to do it because I made the motion. Approve my motion because it's the right thing to do in this situation. We have never, as far as I know, approved a venue in front of a subdivision. They've always been on farmed acres, 10 acres or more. We've never put one against a subdivision, so we've really never dealt with this issue. These people have lived in this subdivision, most of them a long time. It's their lifelong home. Of course, it's not perched quiet in there, but it's quieter than it is out on Broad Street here in town. It's country. It's rural. I cannot see this happening. I'm going to make the motion that we deny this PUD for this venue tonight because it's not at a good location. It's just that simple. It's dangerous and it's not at a good location. The idea of what it was advertised for sale for was a bed and breakfast. That would have worked great. Low impact, people come and go, tours for a historical site, be great. Save history, tour it, let people come out and see it. But for somebody to put a venue in there for profit at the expense of all the people that was opposed to it, I can't go along with that. And I thank you.
We have a motion and a second to deny rezoning request REZ 22-021 for Stephanie Macca, located on Jefferson Pike. Discussion or comments?
Mr.
Chair Johnson.
Just for clarification, we vote yes on this. If we vote yes, that is a no vote. Vote. Essentially a no vote. A no is a yes.
Correct, Commissioner Johnson. The motion was to deny, and if you vote yes, it's to deny. Other questions or comments?
Question.
Yes.
Just to kind of
Commissioner Oliver.
clarify what Commissioner Irvin asked, I believe this is what you asked, sir. Should this event center venue be approved and then the process moves forward, who's going to keep everything in check and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing? I think that was something that Commissioner Irvin asked, so I just need some clarification there.
Mr. Damasi.
Am I on? Okay, thank you. Okay, to answer your question directly, Commissioner Oliver, there'll be various people, if this were to be approved, that would, I guess, kind of follow behind to make sure things are being done the way they should be. One of the comments that I heard had to do with the actual events at the facility that had to do, talked about primarily weddings, but she also mentions things like church events, school event, whatever, things like that. The way I understand the pattern book and the way that it was written, those events would be included with the weddings, the same time frames. Okay, it's not that they're getting additional events along with the weddings, so that's one thing. Building and fire codes, that would be looked at with our building codes department and also our fire marshal, our fire chief, and our fire and rescue department officials. Anything dealing with the septic on the sites, that has to run through the state with TDEC. She did provide a septic map. There are usable soils out there, but anything she would do would have to be permitted through the state. Okay. As far as the floodplain is concerned, it's not that you can't develop inside of the floodplain. You can. There are regulations for doing it. You have to, especially for like homes and occupied structures, there has to be a higher minimum floor elevation. There has to be at least 3 feet above the base flood, whereas non-residential structures have to be a foot above that. So those are things that we would look at, our engineers would look at. We would see that in a site plan. They would have to show those elevations for us to understand that. I did want to address a couple of things. The thing about the average size, and this gets back to what Mr. Sean Henry was discussing a little earlier. I haven't run the math as far as what the average size of one of these venues is. The way that we handle retreats in our zoning ordinance, it's kind of a two-pronged attack, so to speak. There are differences in procedure depending on the size of the property and the number of events. So because her property that she's asking for is under 10 acres, yes, she automatically had to come to this venue to do the rezoning. If she had greater than 10 acres, that's one of the prongs that would let her go to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Now, the regulations don't change that much. Actually, everything in her pattern book pretty much models the codes that we have. If you're over 10 acres and have less than 30 events a year, you can go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, but that's the only time. If you had over 10 acres and still had more than 30 events, you'd still have to come here. So I just wanted to clarify that. Most of these issues that we're discussing tonight, like you said, there would be follow-up from our department and from engineering, which is part of our planning and engineering, our building code staff, our fire and rescue staff, TDEC. All those folks would be looking at these plans should this be approved. So that's really what they're really looking at is the use going to be allowed based on the concept that they had submitted. Now again, a site plan would show the layout of the site. If it was significantly different than what was proposed in the pattern book, yes, that would have to come back. If there were some minor shifts here and there, we could do that administratively. The code gives us that authority. That was kind of a long rambling way to answer your question, but that'd give you the information.
I'd like to just build on that question.
Commissioner Dodd.
Thank you. If it were approved and it were built, I think the commissioners are asking, to use Steve's colloquialism, do we have a sound police? Is there somebody that the neighbor could complain to if she were open after 10, or if the music increased in decibels?
Right. Well, and to answer that question, I'll go back to something Mr. Piercy talked about a little earlier. The sound ordinance is a challenge, the current one that we have, and we know that. Commissioner P. and I have discussed that with our Building Codes Director, Tanya Bell. That's something we are hoping to work on and maybe get some changes to that. As far as if she's being open past 10 o'clock, you know, the more objective things that we can look at, is she being open past 10 o'clock? Is she opening certain days of the week where she wasn't allowed to? That would be submitted, it could be to us or it could be through our zoning enforcement officials, which are in our building codes office. And then we could reach out to the applicant at that point and say, okay, these were your standards that you were approved under, you're outside of that. So again, we would, our goal is always compliance in those situations. You know, we start with, you know, basically just a phone call, hey, we've heard this, okay, what's going on? Determine if there's any truth to the issues that are being presented. If there are, that's when we start enforcement proceedings. Okay, you need to stop that. If it keeps happening, we keep raising the level. Eventually, it could end up in court. But you know, we try to avoid that. You know, our goal is compliance, not penalty.
Other questions for Mr. DeMasi, or other questions in general? Commissioner Cush.
Doug, thank you. For myself and the rest of this body, should we vote for approval? Well, let me start over. On the Planning Commission, I was the one that made the motion to approve. Okay, but I had some caveats to that in terms of the recommendation for a sound engineer, because I was concerned and still am concerned about the noise. This is in very close proximity of people's homes. Sound travels. There is a sound report. It is, to me, a little suspect. The credentials of this individual is not what I would anticipate a real sound engineer certification to be. And there's plenty of room for me to poke holes in it. But a couple of things, Doug. On page 10 of the standards, it references the Rutherford County guidelines of 65 decibels. On page 13, the sound engineer says we're going to hold we will cue this up to 95 decibels. So I'm not sure which is 65 really our standard, and would we allow more than 65 in the room? I'm not sure, A, if his reference to our 65 is correct, or B, where did he come up with the fact that we would allow 95? The other things I'm concerned about with the noise, if I still want more in regards to noise abatement and noise reduction, the fact that this is a PUD, can we still require that extra above and beyond past this vote in terms of when we get the design and the site plan and things that?
Right, and I think you can place reasonable conditions on a PUD. So I do believe
it doesn't have to be done tonight.
Well,
right?
If you want to place it, this would be the time to place the as far as saying, yes, we want a more detailed sound study that we're going to want to review and have more say into at the Planning Commission level. I think you can, I think that's a condition you can place on that. Okay. Now, as far as the noise, what you were talking about, as far as the noise levels, there are prescribed levels in our zoning ordinance under the performance standards. Right. Those are measured at the property line. So if it's inside the building, I don't think that's really what they're trying to measure. It's at the property line.
All right. So your 65 that he mentions is allegedly at the property line.
Correct. That's what our regulations would require.
Okay. Well, actually, in another area, he says 55 decibels at the property line.
Right, and it varies depending on the type of use next to what type of use. So I think 55 might be the one that's, I just don't have it right in front of me, I'm sorry, but I can open my ordinance if we need to. But,
so let me ask you this question too. There's been a lot of talk about the current buffer, alive or dead. Certainly a buffer does reduce the decibel level, a small amount. One gentleman referenced a document, maybe it was soil conservation, I can't remember what he referenced, but he was exactly right. It takes several feet to reduce, because trees have holes in them. I mean, come on.
Correct.
Right? So he was correct in his statement. This guy was incorrect in his statement about the buffering in terms of, but so long story short, would we require a new buffering? And, you know, we talked about a privacy fence, and at the Planning Commission, I said a plastic fence won't do any good, a wooden slat fence will not do any good. That is a visual barrier, but not a sound barrier. If we wanted to request or require in the PUD a real sound absorbing or reflective wall, we would have to ask for that tonight.
That is correct.
Okay.
I think that'd be the most appropriate place to put it, would be in the powder booth.
One gentleman that spoke tonight, he may have been the third or fourth guy that talked about acoustics and talked about the box within a box. He was right on track. In fact, he may need to be our expert witness if we want to go any farther. But he was exactly right. This guy talked about one wall. He didn't talk about the ceiling. He talked about the windows, or talking about a 35 dB, I'm going from memory, 35 dB reduction in the windows. But stop and think. You build an extra wall and you put windows in it, well, the weakest point is your windows. So sound is still going to come out through the 35 dB reduction in your windows only. It doesn't matter if you have a 55 dB reduction in the wall, it's still going to come through the windows. So it's like Swiss cheese, right? So there are some holes in the report. I guess where I'm going with this is, depending on how we vote on this motion in just a minute, I'm almost to the point where I would think that the county would want, maybe funded by the applicant, but I would think the county would want our own independent acoustic engineer to have a chance to rebut or create our own information on the sound abatement issue on this particular property.
Do a review is what you're talking about.
Review or a study.
Sure. Well, and let me say at least this, and I'm thinking your idea has merit. I'm not trying to counteract that by any means. We do have, there's something in our ordinance that is similar to this. Now it's apples and oranges, what we're talking about.
Okay.
But in our, for cell tower ordinance, we actually have the ability to require third-party studies to review applications to give their findings on that. We've employed that several times and find it very, very useful, very helpful.
Okay. It's my personal opinion that this particular sound engineering report is not reasonable evidence for me to give fact that these are all real facts on the sound report. I mean, the guy couldn't even spell proficiencies correctly on the title of this page. So we'll see how the vote goes, and we'll come back.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a quick question? Do you have a sense for the parking that's going to be available on this size of a lot? And will there be, in other words, will there be adequate parking for this size of a lot for these types of venues, given the 50 plus a number of people and things like, you know, I'm not sure how many people are required in the wedding. And so I'm trying to get a sense. And then the follow-up question is, what if they spill over into the street?
Well, we're not going to want that. I mean, obviously, and there's a couple of course, Roanoke Drive is a county road. So, I mean, we don't want to see that. And Jefferson Pike being a state road, we know the state doesn't want to see that. There are standards for parking in our zoning ordinance that they will have to abide by. Now, they're minimum standards. Most developments we see far exceed any minimums that we would prescribe. This is, you know, they're capping it. Their proposal is 100 persons. It's reasonable to assume that not everyone's going to be driving their own car. I mean, we're a society, people love their cars, yes, but a lot of times in events like this, you get multiple people in a car. So what they're showing for parking, I believe, is adequate, and it's not going to be a paved lot because it's not required to be. That was part of the way we wrote the regulation. We didn't want them all paved. Now they're ADA spots, handicap accessible spots have to be. Those have to meet code. But to answer your question, I mean, if we started seeing that, we would immediately reach out to the applicant and say, this isn't going to work. You have to make other arrangements.
Yes, thank you.
Other questions? We're ready to vote.
Chairman?
Yes.
I would like to request a voice vote on this, if we could, roll call vote.
Hold on a second. Isn't voting on the board the same as a roll call?
To me, it's not.
Got some legal opinion. Roll call vote is the same thing as us casting a vote on the board. So we can do it by roll call. If that's what you really want, I'm not sure what the difference is, Commissioner Piercy, but if that's what you want, that's what we'll do.
That was my request.
Alan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Macca.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If that's his request and you say it's the same, so he can change it to a motion. He can make a motion that we vote, and then if we get a second and pass, we can do it.
As chairman, for the last 2 or 3 months, I've been dying to make a decision, and this guy says I can, so we're going to go by roll call. And that's what we're going to do. So are we ready to vote? This motion is to deny. So a yes would be to deny the motion. If you don't want to vote in opposition to this, you'll need to vote no. A yes is to deny. A no is to do something else. We ready? Clerk, you ready? Call the roll.
Commissioner Oliver.
Wait. Let's get clear on the yes and no situation. My motion was to deny. A yes would be to deny this application.
Yes, Commissioner Piercy, we've said that about a half a dozen times.
Well, you may have to say it again before we get done.
Okay.
But let's go.
Does anybody not understand this? We have a motion to deny the request. A yes vote is to deny the request. If you vote no on the motion, then we will have to do something else. Okay? It's not automatically approved. We will have to do something else. In essence, someone would have to make a motion to approve, and it'd be seconded, and we would vote again. So we're only voting on the motion to deny. We're not voting in support of it. We're voting on the motion to deny. Yes to deny, no is not to deny. Okay? Clear? Good. Call the roll.
Commissioner Oliver.
Nay.
Commissioner Piercy.
Yes.
Commissioner Rather.
Yes.
Commissioner P.
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson.
No.
Commissioner Beverly.
Yes.
Commissioner Cush.
No.
Commissioner Reed.
No.
Commissioner James.
No.
Commissioner Wilson.
No.
Commissioner Anthony Johnson,
No.
Commissioner Boyd,
No.
Commissioner Paul Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
No.
Commissioner Dodd,
No.
Commissioner Phillips,
No.
Commissioner McAdoo,
No.
Commissioner McMurray,
No.
Commissioner Cooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Serenia,
Yes.
Eight yes, 13 no.
Motion fails. Now we need another motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
forgive me, it's been going on about 3 hours. Could we
Commissioner Beverly.
take a recess for about 10 minutes, please?
I'll entertain a motion before we go. Commissioner Davison is floating. Commissioner Beverly wants to go. We'll take a 5-minute break. 5 minutes. Call our session back into order. Rezoning request already. Thank you. Before the recess, we had a rezoning request, a public hearing on a rezoning request for Stephanie Macca, and we had a motion to deny, and that motion to deny failed. So the commission is charged to make a decision. So that the floor is open for other anything. Yeah, come on.
He's looking at me.
Somebody have one. I need a motion.
Am I recognized?
You are.
Oh, okay.
Commissioner
All right.
Chris.
You had that kind of deer in headlights look, and I wasn't sure if you were
It's been
looking
that way
over
for a
me or
couple
through me.
hours.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on the results of this last motion, I will make a motion. Again, I sit on planning. I made the original motion to approve. I'm going to make a motion to approve this zoning request, subject to the original staff comments made at planning. In addition to, I'm going to ask for an independent sound, and we can call it sound acoustic study. I believe the applicant is willing to pay for that. The results of that study is then going to help us decide the type of construction internally on the building, and if so recommended, we'll address barrier walls, fencing, whether that needs to be additional natural vegetation or a real reflective or absorptive fencing material. That is my motion.
Second.
Second.
We have an appropriate motion. Thank you, Commissioner Cush, and a second by Commissioner Johnson. Now questions on the motion. For this, we're going to be on the board. A yes vote is to approve the request. Please cast your vote.
Mr. Chair,
Is everybody else working?
I can make a motion to do a roll call if you'd like.
I'll just make the decision.
Okay.
We'll do a roll call vote. We've been here too long. If batteries go down. Madam Clerk, are you ready? We have a motion to approve rezoning request REZ 22-021 for Stephanie Macca. Call the roll.
Commissioner Oliver?
Aye.
Commissioner Piercy?
No.
Commissioner Rather?
No.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson?
Yes.
Commissioner Beverly?
Yes.
Commissioner Cush?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Anthony Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Commissioner Paul Johnson?
No.
Commissioner Irvin?
No.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Chairman Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo? Commissioner McMurray?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
No.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Sixteen yes, 5 no.
Motion passes. So request REZ 22-021 for Stephanie Macca has been approved with conditions.
This will be the last time I talk to most of you before the holiday. I just wanted to wish you all a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Item J on our agenda, elections and confirmation. Chairman Reed.
Not with that nice pick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On elections and confirmations, item number 1, Commissioners, we're dealing with listings of notaries. They may be found on your iPad. Mr. Chairman, I move to confirm the election of these individuals as Rutherford County notaries.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to confirm the notaries. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposition? Motion carries.
Item 2, would like to confirm Mr. Jim Thompson to the Rutherford County Planning Commission to fill a retiring member's vacancy with a remaining term to expire August 2023. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to confirm Jim Thompson to the Planning Commission. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to confirm carries. Thank you. I'll say one word before we get off of that subject. The retiring member, it seems kind of cold, but his name is Craig Lynch, and he's been on that commission longer than I have, which is almost longer than we've had building materials supplied in Rutherford County. We need to recognize him for his years of service on that commission. He's a true treasure to this county. I'm sorry, Commissioner Reed.
No problem. Seems like everybody didn't want to hear my elections and confirmations anyway. So. Item 3, steering wishes to announce 2 Correctional Work Center board vacancies, current terms to expire January 2023. And item number 4, steering would like to announce 1 county commissioner vacancy on the audit committee. This completes the business of elections and confirmation.
Thank you, Chairman Reed. Item K, resolution to approve the consent agenda. Chairman Pro Tem Treguch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Dodd has requested that we take item number 4 off the consent agenda and put it with the Budget Committee. Everything else is appropriate. My motion is to approve the consent agenda as presented, absent number 4.
Second.
Item 4 has been removed and will be replaced under the budget discussion. So we had a motion and a second to approve our consent agenda with that reduction. Any other questions or comments on it? All those in favor of the motion? We need to be on the board. I'm sorry. Please cast your vote. Everybody online? Commissioner Dodd, are you working? Say yes or no. Everyone else cast their vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
So 19 yes, 1 abstain. No, 18 yes, 19 yes, 1 abstain. Did y'all get that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the consent agenda passes. Okay, let's see if I can figure out where we are now. Unfinished business? None. We've been to public hearings. We'll get into our standing committee reports. First up is our Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee, Commissioner Chairman Robert P.
Well, I was told since I've got 3 items now that I get 3 minutes each, so that's 9. I told him I can do it with your help. First resolution is N1A, and this is actually a requirement from the state to our school system to hire more ESL teachers. We don't really have a choice. This money is actually coming out of the school's budget. This is not new money. However, there is a caveat to that. Next year, this would be considered part of our maintenance of effort at the local level, so it could affect next year's budget. So I just want to be clear on that. There's been a lot of questions about maintenance of effort lately. So, okay, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the General Purpose School Fund be amended according to the schedule attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim. Resolved this 17th day of November 2022. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye. Whoop, aye. I'm sorry. Board, we need to go on the board.
May I continue voting?
Please cast your vote.
May I continue voting out loud?
You're not fixed? Yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. Everyone else cast their vote?
I'll go last for the next one if I need to.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
19 yes, 1 abstain.
Motion passes.
Okay, I'm going to keep us in line, so we'll bring the one we took off the agenda for last. Item N1B, and this is a resolution to accept a grant to buy body-worn cameras for the Sheriff's Department. Resolution, whereas the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office received the FY22 body-worn camera policy and implementation program grant from the United States Department of Justice in the total amount of $399,286 and requiring a 50% local match of $199,642. And whereas the grant performance period is October 1st, 2022 to September 30th, 2025, and whereas the grant will be used to purchase 100 body-worn cameras, provide storage of the camera data, and employ a part-time employee to manage the camera program. Therefore be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and all other appropriate officials of Rutherford County, Tennessee be and are hereby authorized to accept the FY22 body-worn camera policy and implementation program grant from the United States Department of Justice in the total amount of $399,286 and requiring a 50% local match of $199,642. And further, that the general fund be amended as follows to recognize the grant revenue, appropriate the funds, and fund the local county match for the current fiscal year. From the Sheriff's Office, increased revenue, other direct federal revenue, $82,925, which is just the amount for this year. Remember, we do have a total amount of $199,642. That will be a decrease in unassigned fund balance of $82,925. Increase expenditures, part-time personnel, $14,007, and this all totals up to $116,426. Resolve this 17th day of November 2022. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution N1B. Any discussion? For this will also be on the board. Please cast your vote. Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
For the vote.
20 yes.
Motion to approve carries. Thank you.
Okay, the last resolution is what we were asked to pull off the consent agenda. Our school director, Mr. Sullivan, is here in case you have questions. Resolution, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the general purpose school fund be amended according to the schedule attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein at length as reference as set forth herein at length verbatim. Resolved the 17th day of November 2022. And this is the Safe Schools Grant.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? Chairman Dodd?
Yes, sir. Thank you. The committee voted unanimously in support of this. This is a grant that has been done for many years, and it's easy to vote yes for. It's earmarked for school safety programs. I can't define all those, and perhaps Dr. Sullivan can if we need him to. And the reason I've asked it to be put on the agenda tonight is the dollar amount, of course, is significant, and it's over $1 million. But secondly, this money will no longer be given to us in a grant form next year. This is the last year of the grant. Next year, it'll come out of TISA, the new funding mechanism. And so we'll have the $1 million in there, but it won't be as specifically earmarked for safety. But as our finance director and the school board and their finance director suggested, they can continue to put the money in the appropriate categories to maintain those safety items. So I support this. Your Health and Education Committee supported it, and the school board did. I wanted you to see it because it was so large, and recognize it will come out of the school budget next year in a different avenue from increase in state funds. So we have to keep an eye on it to see that these safety programs still get funded. But again, I wanted y'all to see it if you had any questions or concerns, or if any other board members had a comment. And I will be voting. I will be in support of this motion.
Any questions? We have a motion and a second to approve budget item K4. Any other questions? For this will be on the board. Commissioner Dodd? Oh, wow. All right. Please cast your votes.
Yes. Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
19 yes, 1 abstain.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my business.
Meeting date? Next meeting date? Let me tell you. The Budget Committee. Looks like the 8th, Thursday the 8th of December, be 5:30.
And to save a little time, we'll be sending out an invitation for everybody to join me on December the 2nd to go to check out a trash disposal group. So you'll be getting an email on that from Rachel.
Thank you, Chairman P. Health and Ed. Chairman
Yes, thank
Phil
you,
Dodd.
Chairman. Thank you. And we will be on the agenda on all the months to come. We've, as a board, have decided that our agenda is so critical. We're 75% of the budget. Even though all of our items on a weekly basis may not be significant, we think it's appropriate that we at least give you guys some bullets. So I will do that now. Health Department Director Cumby has acknowledged that COVID hospitalizations continue to trend downward. Rutherford County's transmission rate is low, so good news. Monkeypox transmission rates are low. Vaccinations and treatments are available. An interesting thing that the Health Department has provided, and I think Mr. Wilson thought this was significant in our meeting, that is, there are 3 health educators employed by the Health Department that are available for community engagement in schools, civic events, daycare, senior citizen, good health practices, et cetera. So if any of you are in a group that would benefit from having someone from the Health Department advocate for your group or for their project, please reach out to Director Cumby. School Board, we mentioned the budget amendments. In addition to that, the TISA, I just saw a misspelling, so it threw me. The TISA guide, the new funding plan will be out. Supposed to be out January or February, but will likely be March or April. So we're no longer under BEP. We're going to be under TISA, and it could be significantly more millions of dollars, and there's maintenance and effort, but a lot of complicated components to that. But we look forward to that coming out. That recognition gave us some concern. Chairman Phillips asked, we are going to be a very tight rope between school budget, understanding our funds, and going to the bond market. Just something to keep in mind. We're going to have a compressed time period to have the best opportunity in the fund market. So just be aware of that. We may have to push quickly. I hope I stated that correctly, Michael. We did have a conversation, and this is a topic that we want to understand the rubric used to determine which schools are going to get remodeled this year. Commissioner Oliver asked that question. I think we're going to get more clarity on how the schools were ranked, Blackman, Riverdale, and Oakland specifically. And we will hear more about that at our November 29th meeting. We will also get an update on the on the November 8th meeting that the school board recently had. And finally, our next meeting is November 29th at 6 p.m. in this chamber, and our December meeting is the 20th. If we will have that on our agenda on the 29th. If we have no business or if it's conflicting with our holiday plans, we may change it. But that's open for discussion for the December meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property Management, Chairman Alan McAdoo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I noticed on our outline tonight it said Health and Education Committee, no report, but I just heard a report. Property Management Committee, November the 30th will be our next meeting at 5:30, but we got a tour at 3:30 of 20 North and the Goldstein Building. So I'm asking any commissioner that want to join us, they can join us. We're meeting in the mayor's office at 3:30. Mayor's office at 3:30. So if any commissioner wants to join us for that tour, feel free to do so. In December, Our meeting is scheduled for the 23rd, so apparently that probably will change. But I can't let you know about the change until we have a committee meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Safety, Chairman Pettis-Reed.
Mr. Chairman, our next meeting will be November the 28th at 5:30. The agenda went out yesterday, so we got an early start on that due to the fact of the holidays next week, so everybody should have that ready for that meeting. Just to give you a little update on the public safety meetings, I grabbed my hard hat today and went out to Rockville and Kittrell just to see how those buildings are coming along. Kittrell, it will be available. It looks like about April is what they were telling me out there today. They'll be putting up steel for the roof next week. Looks like things are really moving along. They were telling me that they're getting supplies out there that they really are not needing right now. They're arriving. Just opposite of Rockville, supplies they're needing hasn't arrived yet. So everything's working in reverse. It's amazing on what these buildings are needing and how the supplies gets there and the things that they're needing there. But it looks like Kittrell is moving along pretty much in schedule and what they're going to do there. So we're looking at about April or the 1st of May for sure going into there. Rockville will be available around January or February depending on glass. That's what they're short of, windows to have glass in them right there. Today they were in the process of installing the frames for the bay doors. Bay doors should go in next week, so that'll shut out a lot of this cold. They can do a lot of work on the inside. It looks like groundbreaking there for that building, or we'll go in. We're not, what we're planning for a lot of these stations is not a ribbon cutting. We're going to have a fire hose disconnect. It's what we're planning to do there for those different buildings. Lascassas and Walter Hill will be doing a groundbreaking here come spring. So instead of turning ground for a garden, we're going to turn grounds for some public safety buildings. So those are coming on real quick. The December meeting for public safety will be the 19th. We have moved that up to get away from Christmas to give everybody the opportunity to make those dates. So we have already set that date of the 19th. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Works and Planning, Chairman Mike Cush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. December 1st is a special called Planning and Public Works meeting. We are going to interview the 3 firms that submitted requests for qualifications, RFQs, for the design of our transfer station. So December 1 is that meeting. I believe we have a next scheduled meeting December 6th, but December 1, mark it down.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Steering Legislative and Governmental Committee, Chairman Craig Harris.
Mr. Chairman, our next meeting is December 5th at 5:30. The one thing I want to report on, 4 years ago, when I became a commissioner, I ran on, everybody knows, the opioid. And I met a administrator who I tasked and I challenged him, and I said, I want to put a better drug comprehensive program in our schools. He's our superintendent now, and I can't tell you how proud I am of him, but it had the fact that it was a pilot system with only 3 schools, and the data had to be there for us to go any further. Well, I'm proud to announce the data was there. It was successful, and now from 3 schools, we're going to go to 12 schools in the northern section of Murfreesboro. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of you, Dr. Sullivan. And I think, I want to tell you all the good news. I tell you all the horrible stories, but this is the big win for Rutherford County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brings us pretty much to the end of our agenda. Let me just kind of piggyback on what Chairman Harris just talked about. I've attended, I guess, every one of the opioid committee meetings so far, and that committee is really gaining steam. New partnerships, and results in mind. Those types of things are extremely impressive. And when we're dealing with the amount of money that we're dealing with, to know that it can go to a purpose that can be measured and how successful that program is quite impressive to a person like me. So thank you for your work, and I appreciate that committee being at the point that they are, and in all probability, sometime next year we'll be distributing funds. Very good. Let me just say our next meeting is on the 15th of December, and as a result of what happened tonight, you guys, I'm going to just very briefly, and there's some folks that have heard this many, many times before. 20 years ago, we really didn't do any rezoning in the county simply because most of the commercial development, if not all of it, was happening in incorporated areas. A few years ago, 10, 15 years ago, the state legislature passed a law restricting municipalities from growing. So what that really means is that we are experiencing most of the commercial and industrial growth in the county. So what we witnessed tonight is a common occurrence and will be more and more common as time goes by. So the decisions that we made tonight, the Planning Commission are making right now, we'll be making more and more and more of those in the future. They're not easy decisions to make, and just think about that. Most of the county is residential. So a lot of our development going into the county is going to abut residential subdivisions. So we're going to be faced with those type of decisions on a more regular basis as time goes by. Did I say that about right, Commissioner Reed? So be prepared as time goes by. We'll be making more and more and more of those decisions. They're not easily made. And I would like to thank you for your patience tonight, your attention to detail as it related to that rezoning that caused so much division, I guess, in that particular neighborhood. And I really appreciate you guys staying on task. Even though we had to take a potty break, we did good. Thank you. Anyone have anything else?
Mr. Chairman.
Under other business? Commissioner Beverly.
Just announcements, I'm sorry.
Yep, you're good.
All right. December 1st, the local Fraternal Order of Police will hold our Tip-A-Cop over at the Toots in Smyrna. That's our fundraiser for our Christmas programs where we take 100 kids Christmas shopping. We also give them food and clothing to help get them through the wintertime. It's a huge fundraiser. We put about $20,000 back into our community. So 11 to 1, December 1st, we want to invite all of you out to come to Tip-A-Cop at Toots in Smyrna. Tip-A-Cop, we assist the servers.
Commissioner Cush.
Oh, after the Public Works meeting on December 1, we'll just rush right over there and do that. Yeah, okay. December 2nd, our mayor has accepted an invitation to light the traditional Rutherford County Christmas tree. So from 5:30 to 8:30 on the square, there will be a huge event. Music, food, live nativity scene. Of course, Santa is coming, so you don't want to miss Santa, so bring the kids. Now, this is a public service announcement from Main Street Board. Apparently last year was the start of the political cycle and campaign year, and apparently a few commissioners got on stage and, you know, kissing babies, shaking hands. Main Street Board said, please stay on the ground, don't get up on stage, other than the mayor. So the Main Street Board has politely asked, stay in your lane. Thank you. December 2nd, 5:30 on the square.
5:30. Thank you, Commissioner Cush. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. James, you okay? Commissioner Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, unless I missed an email, we were advised that we would be staying after this meeting to do a Christmas video or whatever.
Forgot about that.
And Mr. Mayor, this is one of my ties I told you I do wear, that I do not wear, but I wore it for tonight, and I didn't want to be just spoofed on this.
Thank you. I'd forgotten all about that. I'm assuming what we've done in the past, we'll just stand up here in front of it and say, Merry Christmas, and that'll be pretty much it. Not long. So after we adjourn, Yes.
Yes, last
Boyd,
month,
I'm sorry.
When Coach Rakes was here and we honored him, he mentioned that he was having hip surgery. I talked with his niece last night, Judy Haley, and he did indeed have surgery on the 21st of October. It went well. He is rehabbing at Adams Place, and it's all going well.
Thank you, Carl. Appreciate that. Anything else?
I just want to ask
McMurray?
Commissioner Beverly, the tip of cop is just for a toots, correct? Not when we get pulled over? Okay. Just getting clarification.
Comedy hour.
Oh, sorry, Sheriff.
Comedy hour.
At least we digress. Commissioner Johnson. Anything else? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you.